Hey now, good Monday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. 3 hours of 580 Sports Talk covering all things Chiefs and NFL Draft, Kansas City Royals. We've got some portal talk coming up, our postseason wrap-up, roundup coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. So much to get to today on 580 Sports Talk. We appreciate you joining us as we start off this week of April 24th. And we will start things off talking a little Royals baseball here in just a moment. Say something nice about the Kansas City Royals. They were competitive this weekend. Every game was close or they won. And that was also close. But
rallied back on Saturday, showed me a little something, little grit, little heart.
Pitching was pretty good Friday.
Their three core pieces for the future all dinged some dongs yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Some good things. We'll talk about that, even though they ended up losing the series to the Los Angeles Angels. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Also this hour, we'll recap the whole weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Matt Verderame is going to join us from Sports Illustrated, our NFL insider. We'll talk all things NFL Draft. It begins on Thursday. We are just 3 days away from the start of the draft, so we'll get some final news and notes from Matt Verderame coming up at the bottom of this hour. Also coming up today, it's our final mock draft Monday of the year because, again, the draft comes up this week. We'll talk about some Chiefs needs that maybe are a little bit sneaky. Maybe we haven't talked a whole lot about. We know about the big ones, but what under-the-radar needs do the Chiefs have? We'll get to that. We will preview tonight's Royals game. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. What is wrong with you? All of it and more coming up between now and 6 o'clock right here on 580 WIBW. We will lead you right into some Royals baseball tonight. That's actually a lie. The Royals have a late game tonight. They're still West Coast.
Yeah, they're still out in Arizona. It's going to be an 8:40 first pitch tonight, 8:40 Central Time. So we're up until 6, and then Royals Radio Network takes over at 8.
Yep, I blanked. I knew we didn't have overtime, so I blanked on which one it was. If it was either an earlier first pitch or a late first pitch, and it's the latter.
They're down in the Valley of the Sun playing in the giant old Costco that was retrofitted into a baseball stadium.
It's really what it looks like.
Or a baseball stadium that once they break the lease and move into something more attractive will be retrofitted into a Costco.
Yes, either one. Definitely accurate. We will take your texts, your thoughts, your comments throughout the show. The text line number, as always, 785-272-9429. You can also jump into the comment section on YouTube. The name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. By the way, a little programming note for you. We're still working out the kinks of what exactly we are going to do, but we're going to do some live stream content of the NFL draft coming up this weekend. Planning on probably some longer form stuff on Thursday. We'll go live for the picks on Friday as well in the second and third rounds. Everyone's going to be a part of it to some degree. So join us on our YouTube channel, Sports on 580 WIBW, coming up Thursday and Friday night for the first 2 nights of the NFL draft. Without further ado, because we'll get to draft stuff later on this hour, let's get to the weekend for the Kansas City Royals. It was competitive. A 2-0 loss. That offense wasn't competitive, but the pitching kept them in it. That's what we're hoping for. They only gave up 2 runs.
Yeah, that was the opener night, and it was good to see that strategy it worked as intended. That Taylor Clark and Ryan Yarbrough combined to give up just 2 runs in 6 innings. Problem was they were going up against Shohei Ohtani. And if there was a lesson to be learned from this weekend for the Kansas City Royals, is that sometimes 2 of the best baseball players on the planet are going to do what 2 of the best baseball players on the planet do. And that's the margin by which the Royals lost this series this weekend. Ohtani, I don't even think was really at his best on Friday. A little wild, some harder contact than you're used to seeing off of him. Of course, that's the story of the Royal season, right? Hard contact that doesn't amount to anything. He still struck out 11 guys in 7 innings. When he struck out the side in the first inning, I said, oh boy, he's got it all working. And then he was just kind of ordinary for the better part of his final 6 innings on the mound and still struck out 8 more guys, didn't give up any runs. And you can't win if you don't score. And the Royals obviously didn't do any scoring on Friday.
That game brought me to one of my wrap-up questions of the weekend. Given the fact that it worked once, do the Royals ride with the opener until it stops working for that 5th spot? I mean, we've talked about the fact that there's not really a whole lot in the pipeline. There was a story this weekend. I'm going to look for this because I want to give credit to it about how some of the low-level pitching in the minors for the Royals has actually been really good to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't guys you can call up and say, hey, you're going to jump on in all the way from high A into the majors and start on a moment's notice. That's not going to happen. And the Royals don't really have pieces like that. I mean, Jonathan Heasley, you move Carlos Hernandez into the rotation for 4 innings. Daniel Lynch isn't healthy. Like, there aren't a whole lot of options. So since it worked once, do you just keep riding it until it stops working?
Yeah, if somebody were beating down the door at AAA, I might have a different answer for you. I'm okay to let this ride. Unless you're going to, I mean, they're in a position right now where they can add somebody to the 40-man roster because obviously Chris Bubich is out for the season and he has not yet been added to the 60-day injured list, whereupon they are no longer part of the 40-man. They no longer count against your 40-man limit. So if the Royals wanted to add somebody to the 40-man, they could do it. They have that flexibility. And I do think it's a little more sensible in the long run to have 5 spots in the rotation that are filled by actual starting pitchers. And that the opener, I think, is tenable in certain spots or for a trip or 2 through the rotation. But I think ultimately it would behoove the Royals to get a starter up. But this is a plan that gives them a chance to see if somebody does beat down the door. See if somebody down at AAA or high A, hell, wherever, shows that they have earned the opportunity. Go make yourself impossible to ignore is what I would tell any Royals pitching prospect at this point. Go earn that 5th spot because it's there for the taking. You know, and if that doesn't materialize, and like we talked about the last time we talked Royals baseball, if the Royals wanted to, they just stretch out Yarbrough with the next opener slot, and then he's in your rotation. He starts the next time through, and that's your 5th guy. It's not real awesome. You'd certainly hope that there'd be somebody, whether it's Heasley or Bolin or Austin Cox or Alec Marsh, anybody could pitch well enough down at the minor league level to say, hey, I deserve this opportunity more than a guy who's a retread from Tampa Bay. Then I would think the Royals would want to jump at the opportunity to give that chance to one of those guys. But as we underlined on Friday, the guys at AAA, the guys who would ideally be next in line, they haven't earned it.
No, they really haven't. So you kind of have to play it by ear at this point. And I guess the one thing that is beneficial about this working is, at least temporarily, is it gives you a chance to plan. You can say, all right, next week, we're going to do the same thing. Clark's going to open. Yarbrough's going to be the piggyback guy, whatever the combination ends up being. You have a little bit more time to make a plan. And as you said, give these guys a chance to know, hey, there is an opportunity in the lineup or in the rotation at hand. You can jump into this. Jonathan Heasley, you have a great 2 weeks or whatever. Boom, you're in. Whatever it ends up looking like, it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to plan. We already knew that the pitching was, it is what it is. But that was at least positive that for the most part this weekend, the pitching was okay. Wasn't great on Saturday, but the offense was. They fight, they claw, they end up with 11 runs. They end up winning the game. Aside from 3 bad pitches from Jordan Lyles, pitching was pretty good yesterday.
Really only 2 bad pitches from Jordan Lyles. He hung the breaking ball to Taylor Ward for the first of the 3 home runs. And then he really hung one. He put one on a tee for Ohtani for what ended up being the game winner. The pitch to Trout wasn't a bad pitch.
No,
it wasn't. Down. It was out of the zone. It's just, there's one guy who does that kind of damage to that pitch, and it's number 27 for the Los Angeles Angels. Like I said, again, the lesson from the weekend, sometimes you just get got by Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. And when those 2 are the guys that are getting you, and it's amazing it doesn't happen often enough for that team to be competitive. But I mean, that's the nature of baseball, right? Like if it was as easy as, we have a big 2, we're going to win 100 games. No, not really how it works.
No.
But there are times when it does. And we saw it happen on a couple of occasions this weekend. But yeah, other than that, did Lyles pitch him into the 6th inning like he always does? Yeah, it was the Jordan Lyles experience. It was depth. It was competence, roughly. And it was like not spectacular. And it was prone to the long ball. And their bonus run that they got earlier in the game was enough to win the battle of solo home runs on that afternoon in Los Angeles.
I called him Mr. Clanky because if you ever played the backyard baseball computer and video games as a kid, maybe your kids played it. if you did the batting practice mode, there was a robot that threw the batting practice pitches named Mr. Clanky, and you just hit a bunch of home runs. And that's essentially what he was for 3 batters in a row.
Mr. Clanky.
And he made fun clanky noises. Mr. Clanky. That's what Jordan Lyles was for 1 inning yesterday. But otherwise, pitching was okay for the weekend. You mentioned the young guys hitting. Bobby Witt with a couple of hits. Vinny Pasquantino continued to do his thing. I thought it was good before he got hurt for MJ Melendez to go 3 of 9 for the weekend. That was positive.
Yeah, I thought his at-bats were pretty good. He also drove in the winning run on Saturday by taking 95 squarely off the shoulder. So he had that going for him as well. But yeah, better at-bats for MJ, and good to see him get some results to go with it. Both him and Vinny going out of the yard left on left was really nice to see. Vinny's having a super year. A 144 OPS plus, 44% league average offensively.
Awesome.
10 extra base hits in 88 plate appearances, 11 walks in 88 plate appearances, leads the team. Melendez second with 10. I mean, the Royals have backslid plate discipline wise from some early season encouraging numbers in that department. They are once again last in the American League in total walks drawn, and they are last in walk rate, percentage of at bats or plate appearances that end in a walk. But that's not a surprise that like Hunter Dozier has 1 walk in 49 plate appearances, or Salvador Perez only has 2 in 86 plate appearances. We know what those guys are. It's the young guys that have been able to hold some gains in that department, Pasquantino and Melendez, that you like to see. So yeah, the young guys, I thought swung the bats pretty well on the weekend. Dozier, I mean, I just kind of crapped on him a little bit, but he came up with 3-hit day on Saturday, had the big 2-run single that was important for insurance's sake in that 9th inning rally on Saturday. So I'll give him a little credit where it's due. The Dozier hive, such that it exists, had something to cheer about this weekend as he raised his batting average to 188. And hey, Michael Massey got 2 hits yesterday. Still waiting for his first walk, but the batting average is up to 143.
I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers just got traded.
Whoa.
And I'm very distracted.
Whoa.
The compensation, Aaron Rodgers and pick number 15 plus a 5th. In exchange, the Packers get pick number 13, so they move up 2 spots. They swap first rounders.
Uh-huh.
A 2nd-round pick this year, a 6th, so that's the sweetener, and a conditional 2nd next year that can become a 1st if Rodgers plays 65% of plays this year. So that will be a 1st. If he's going to be there, he's going to play.
Yeah, unless he gets hurt.
That's bizarre that's the conveyance. Wow, I'm sorry. I totally derailed this segment, but
no, that's fine. That's much bigger deal.
This has been Royals talk.
Yeah, that's a much bigger deal than Michael Massey getting 2 hits yesterday.
Man.
Aaron Rodgers, the New York Jet.
Aaron Rodgers has been the Green Bay Packers starting quarterback since the year I turned 13. I will turn 29 before week 1 this year.
Wow, man.
That's like literally my entire formative years and adult life.
Yeah, more than half your life.
Wow, man. That's wild. I mean, I was emotionally prepared for it. Oh, man. What a time to talk to Matt Verderame on the show. Like 10 minutes from now, 15 minutes. Awesome. Yeah, man, that's wild. I'm going to be sad. I'll cry until when we get to commercial, but I'm just kidding. But wow.
You surprised by the pick swap in the first round?
No, honestly, I'm really not. I mean, you get 2 seconds and, swap the late picks. Who cares about that? You get 2 seconds, though. Maybe one of them becomes the 1st, and you get to move up in the first round for a guy who has already admitted he wasn't going to play for you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's pretty good. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of successful 39-year-old quarterbacks out there. You get pick 42 out of it. That pick. The Green Bay Packers just got Felix Anudike-Uzomah. There you go. That's number 42.
Okay.
There's King Felix for you.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's wild. I'm glad it finally happened. Rob Demovsky, who covers the Packers for ESPN, literally just this afternoon tweeted out a video of him on SportsCenter saying, this could go into August. It got done 2 hours later, which is very, very funny.
We got a text on the text line from the 785 saying, hey, Michael Massey's still 16% below league average, or 116% below league average on OPS plus. I wonder if Aaron Rodgers could out hit him.
That's funny. Well done. Whew, man. The AFC, another good quarterback. Well, I mean, how good do you think Aaron Rodgers is? Actually, that's an honest question. How good do you think he will be with the Jets?
About as good as Brett Favre was with the Jets.
Man, those first 8 weeks are going to be sick.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun.
Like, yeah, he was cooking before the elbow went bad, and then he couldn't throw the ball far, and the Jets kind of went south there in the second half of that. People forget, like, the whole Brett the Jet thing was real. That was really good. No, he will be, I mean, he makes them a contender in the AFC East. I don't know if he makes them the favorite, but he certainly makes them a viable playoff contender. It's why the Jets had to do this. They've got so much young talent right now that they, you either got the young quarterback and you buttress that with like your free agent talent and you extend your core pieces, or you have a really young team and then you have an opportunity to go out and get a veteran quarterback if one happens to hit the market. And very recent back-to-back MVP just hit the market, and
doesn't happen often.
No. So it's whether it goes right or wrong for the Jets, they absolutely had to do something like this.
Well, and the fact, too, that all of their new additions have been saying, oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers texted me, said he can't wait to play with me in New York. Like, okay, well, you're not going to suddenly not go get the guy because then you're going to have a freaking mutiny on your hands. I'm sad. Like, I knew this was coming. Obviously, I've known this for a long time. I've known that Jordan Love is going to start next year, and I'm ready to put all of my overdone emotional energy behind him. But, yeah, man, I mean, he's been a Packer since 2005, starter since 2008. That's a long time. That's sad. A lot of good memories. And, there'll always be memories. He'll be back to get his number retired someday. That's a really good haul. Like, again, you move up in the first round, 2 seconds, one of which could become a first. I like that haul a lot. That's the thing for the Jets here. You better win, because Rodgers is going to play 65% of the snaps this year. That's starting what, like 13 games, 12 games, and a few more snaps. Like, he's going to cover that. So you better be able to win now. But I don't think they're better than Buffalo. I don't. I think Buffalo's got too many pieces, and they've got a current true superstar quarterback who's on the upswing. Rodgers is, he's still got plenty left, but he's not as good as he was as an MVP.
I don't think they're better than Buffalo either, but you got to think about it. So
that's the next question then. Are they better than Miami? Because to get to the top, you got to, climb up the ladder. The Patriots might not be very good next year. Their talent's bad.
Yeah, the Patriots aren't a factor in that division to me.
Are they better than Miami?
I don't know. Like, what is that team with Tua healthy? Is Mike McDaniel just a drag route merchant? Like, what are they? I don't know what Miami is, but I think New York's got more like high-end players than Miami does. I much as I think Tua can still be good, I'm concerned about like his health, but I think he can still be a good player. I think Rodgers is at least on his level as a quarterback right now, if not still better.
Yeah.
Which would not have been a question going into last year. So yeah, I mean, I think, they're probably the second best team in that division, and you could talk me into them being first. Depends on how the draft goes.
Right now, then, pecking order in the AFC. Chiefs number 1, duh. Number 2, I'm still putting the Bengals number 2.
Yeah, I would still say Cincinnati, then Buffalo, then, probably the Jets.
Jets, and then Jags?
Close between those two, right? Because the Jags don't have to go through anybody in their division.
I think the thing for me with the Jags is I want to see it for another year. Like, I think Trevor's good, and I think he's getting better. I mean, he clearly got better from that first year. And I think they've got some nice pieces. You had Calvin Ridley. That's a huge win for them offensively.
Yep.
Their offensive line is solid. Their defense has some decent pieces. I need to see it another year from them before I say, or at least, part of next year before I say, oh, yeah, they're in that top level, or really it's the next level. Like, it's clearly the Chiefs, then a little bit lower the Bengals, then I think a tiny bit lower Bills, and then everybody else. Before I say the Jags are up there, I think I need to see a little bit more from them, but I don't think the Jets are too far below that on paper. Now, you got to make sure, is Robert Saleh a good coach? is you get the Rodgers Nathaniel Hackett thing again, but was Hackett only good because he had Rodgers and Matt LaFleur working above him?
Do they get Breece Hall back at any point? And what does he look like coming off the ACL injury? Obviously, Garrett Wilson, they've added to that receiver core. They've got good depth in that group. Defensively, Sauce Gardner anchors the back end. They've got real outstanding talent up front, led by Quinnen Williams. Like, yeah, that's a double-digit win team, probably, if Rodgers is still good enough. He doesn't have to be his MVP best. I don't think he's got that in him anymore, but I didn't think he had it in him 3 years ago, and then he won 2 of them in a row.
Won 2 in a row. We're going to talk about this a little bit more coming up in about 10 minutes with Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. What a great time to have him on the show today. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll recap the weekend first. We've got the good, the bad, and the ugly coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Fresh off some breaking news, let's recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Dan, why don't you go first? What was your good for the weekend?
I will. I had a really enjoyable Sunday out with my wife. We went and we are starting to consider the process of remodeling one of our bathrooms. And my wife was really excited to shop for vanities and countertops and things of that nature. And it was just fun. It was fun to go out and talk stuff over and just kind of have a hangout day. And I appreciated that. And I'm sure she did too, because I have been watching a lot of the NBA and NHL playoffs at night. So yeah, we got to spend Sunday afternoon together. And the Avalanche and Nuggets lead their first round playoff series. So that's also good.
That's very nice. My good for the weekend, honestly, just kind of hanging out yesterday. Like, I wasn't really in the mood to do anything like all day. So I mean, I just hung out at home. We played board games for a little bit. I didn't stay up all that late. I went to bed at a reasonable hour, 2:00. No, it was just kind of a chill day. Weekend went by sort of fast. I didn't really do a whole lot, but it was nice to just kick back, relax, watch some sports, and not have to worry about anything. Been a while since I've had a truly free, open weekend.
Yeah,
so I'll take it. Bad for you?
Wish the Nuggets could have finished off the sweep last night of the Timberwolves. If they had had any kind of energy in the first half, they might have done so. But Ant-Man's tough. Anthony Edwards, he's tough. And the Timberwolves won game 4 in overtime. So I guess it'll have to be a gentleman's sweep Tuesday night in Denver.
I think it will be. I had Nuggets -4 last night. And when it went to overtime, I thought, I cannot believe I'm going to win this. I have no right to win it. And then it didn't win anyway.
Mike Conley banked in a 3-pointer from the corner. And I said, okay, it's just not happening.
Yeah, not happening. That happens sometimes, though. You just end up with a game like that. My bad is the tiebreakers in the XFL.
Oh, I was wondering how you were handling this.
I'm sad. I'm bummed out, man. So the tiebreaker, Seattle and St. Louis ended up with the same record. And they split their head-to-head series for the year. Seattle won the 5th tiebreaker, which was ranking, like combined ranking of scoring offense and scoring defense relative to the rest of the league. So Seattle was...
I'm already confused.
They were 2nd in scoring offense, 5th in scoring defense. So 2 + 5 is 7. Seattle was 4th in offense, but 1st in defense. 4 + 1 is 5. 5 is a lower number than 7, and that's why Seattle won the tiebreaker. What is that? What kind of cockamamie nonsense is that? What a complete joke.
Yeah, that's very silly.
So my beloved Battlehawks, because they, choked like dogs 2 games ago now against Seattle, no longer get to play in the playoffs. And frankly, I'm sad about it.
I'm very, very sorry to hear that.
Do you have an ugly for the weekend?
Dylan Brooks.
Oh, God.
You talk about an alligator mouth and a hummingbird ass. What do they say about
I've never heard that one before.
You never heard that one?
No.
You don't listen to enough hip-hop.
Apparently.
How about this one? You know the type, loud as a motorbike, but wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight?
I know that one.
Yeah, that's Dylan Brooks.
Yep.
He's going to play his way out of the league at this rate.
There was a report today from someone at ESPN that the Grizzlies are already, they've already moved on. And once this series is over, he's out.
Remember when Mike Krzyzewski pulled him aside after NCAA, I think it was an NCAA tournament game, Duke and Oregon.
2017.
Yeah. And had some extra words for Dylan Brooks. Everybody's like, well, how dare Coach K try and mentor this young man that he's out of line. No, man, he was just telling Dylan Brooks something Dylan Brooks clearly needed to hear, and it went in one ear and out the other.
See, I have a hard time with that particular one, though, because I made so many jokes at Coach K's expense after that happened.
But he was right.
I know.
The jokes can still be good. You know how many years of Cubs failure jokes I got off before they won the World Series?
That's true.
I can't use them anymore, but they were fun while they lasted.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point. Here's my ugly. This is a very selfish ugly. I've been working very hard for the last 48 hours or so on a video version of I only did 1 mock draft this year. Usually I do a bunch. This year, had a lot going on. I'm doing 1. And I've been working very hard on a video version of it. I'm through probably more than half of it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I've already passed numbers 13 and 15 in the process of making my draft video.
You're going to have to go run it back, huh?
I might just punt it at this point. I feel very defeated. I might just say screw it and just do the 1 typed up for the website and be done with it. That one hurt a little bit, just a smidge. We've got to get to a break. Matt Verderame will join us next to talk all things draft and the Aaron Rodgers trade here on 580 Sports Talk. What an absolutely perfect day to have Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated on the program. You can find all of his great work covering the National Football League at SI.com and in Sports Illustrated. You can also find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, let's jump into the breaking news. Less than half an hour ago, Aaron Rodgers traded from the Green Bay Packers to the New York Jets. Brian Gutekunst, Packers GM, talking right now, said it's not officially official, but it is pretty much done. What's your initial thought? We've seen the results. Packers move up in the first round. They swap first rounders with the Jets, get an extra second rounder from the Jets this year, one in the future. What's your overall initial thought on this deal finally getting done?
Thank God. Thank God it's finally done. Look, I think, quite honestly, I think it's a really good deal for the Packers. A really good deal for the Packers. Like, I had talked to so many people in the league, as is everybody who covers the league, and the whole thought was, look, this is going to be a second this year, and this is going to be a conditional next year. And that is just about what it ended up being. I mean, really, look, they swapped first, and they swapped late picks, day 3 picks this year. But that conditional pick next year, the thought was that condition was going to be either A, how much the Packers had to eat in the cash payment for Rodgers, which is $58 billion for September, or it was going to be based off of how far the Jets go in the playoffs. It's only if he plays 65% of the snaps. So if Rodgers is healthy, that's going to be a first round pick next year. That's a great conditional pick for the Packers. I mean, that really, unless he gets hurt, obviously, is putting them in a spot where, worst case scenario, they're getting a second. They're probably getting a first. And so I think if you're Green Bay, and on top of that, as far as we know, they're not eating any of this cash payment. So that's a home run. I just finished doing my grades for SI, and I gave the Packers an A-. I gave the Jets a C+. I mean, you're paying all that for 1 year of a quarterback who last year did not throw for 300 yards once in a game, who was 90% retired by his own comments on the Pat McAfee show before going into a darkness retreat. Like, I have a lot of questions about that. Look, I get why the Jets did it. That's a lot to give up for a guy who you very well might get 17 games out of.
And look, as a Packers fan, I mean, I'm sad because I said it earlier, I was 13 when he became the starter for the Packers. I turned 29 this year, right before the season starts. So that's pretty much all I've known, except for the latter years of Brett Favre. And so I'm sad about that. But, as a fan, you get a bunch of picks, already emotionally and moved on to Jordan Love. That's fine. Packers will move on. For the Jets, though, to me, Matt, this feels like they're better because Aaron Rodgers is better than Zach Wilson. That's not a very high bar to clear. But they better win now because that's a bunch of assets they just gave up.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I just said, that is a lot. That is a lot where I think you have to look at this thing and say, you're expecting 1 year. If you get 2, awesome. But you're expecting 1 year. It's just one of those things where I look at it and say, does that trade make the Jets Super Bowl contenders? Now, maybe some people would say it does. Maybe some people would say, look, he's going to go back to being the MVP player he was a couple of years ago. And if he does that, they're a great team. My argument is, if you said to me right now, rank the Jets in the AFC, okay, they're not Kansas City. They're not Cincinnati. I don't think they're Buffalo. Now, if you want to argue they're better than anybody else, I'll hear it. I'll hear they're better than Miami. I'll hear they're better than Baltimore or the Chargers or Jacksonville. I could also make an argument that they're not as good as Jacksonville. I could make an argument that they're not as good as Miami now with Vic Fangio. Now, I think it's reasonable to go either way on those. I get why the Jets did it. I'm from that area of the country. They have been irrelevant for over a decade. They have not gone to a Super Bowl since the 1968 season. They need something. And he is the best quarterback in that building since Joe Namath, who wore the same number a long time ago. But to give all that up for a guy who in 17 games might just say, you know what, I'm good. That is a lot. And now you have this young team. And you have, by the way, if he leaves, you have no ability to go out and get yourself a top quarterback overall. So it's a huge risk. It is a huge risk. And I don't think the Jets can say they're winners unless they at least go the AFC title game next year, I think that's got to be the bar for that trade to be a success.
We're talking to Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. He joins us every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find Matt's work, si.com, and on his Twitter account at Matt Verderame. Matt, let's pivot back to what was going to be and still will be in the end the biggest NFL news of the week. The NFL draft gets underway on Thursday in Kansas City. Let's look at what the Chiefs might do at number 31. What are you hearing is the most likely direction the Chiefs will go at number 31? Or is it a situation where they can go a bunch of different directions and there's not a clear-cut leader in the clubhouse, so to speak?
I think that it depends on how the board falls. When you're drafting that far back, look, there's a million different ways to think. I mean, let's just be honest. There is a million ways. This draft could go for Kansas City, where Brett Veach is sitting there and goes, okay, maybe we should trade up, trade back, stay where we are. I would put it this way. I think if you got an inside look at their draft board, you probably have tackle, the end, and receiver at the top. And you're going to probably take the best player available out of those three positions. Now, I think that if all things are equal, tackle's probably the number one need on their board. I know some people would say, how could you say that? How could you not say a receiver? If Mahomes has 3 seconds to throw the ball, you're winning. You're winning the game. I don't care. I don't care who he's throwing the ball to. It makes no difference. I watched Peyton Manning for years throw to Austin Collie and Griff Whalen and go 14-2. Like, they're going to move the ball, and they still have Kelsey and Tony and MVS and all these other guys. So I think that if there's a tackle there they like, that's the move. But if the tackles, go, if there's a run on them, if the edge rushers aren't there, then I think receiver would be next, because there is a horde of receivers. Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jalen Hyatt, Quentin Johnston, on and on and on. All guys who could reasonably be there when they get on the clock at 31.
What is the most fascinating storyline going into this draft? There's obviously 4 quarterbacks everybody expects to go, maybe even in the first 4 picks. Maybe there's a 5th quarterback that sneaks into the first round. There's a lot of talk about Hendon Hooker in the last week or so, maybe sneaking into the first. What is the most intriguing storyline you're looking forward to watching play out over the course of Thursday night?
I got to say, I think it's probably the quarterbacks. I mean, I know it's kind of a cop-out of an answer, but how does that fall? Let's drill down more specifically. I would say that what are the Texans going to do it to, and what are the Colts doing it for? Those two teams in the AFC South. Because if it is Levis at 2 or it's Stroud at 2, okay, fine. It doesn't upset the apple cart too much. Levis would be a surprise, although he's a betting favorite right now on a lot of books. But I think for the most part, that would surprise people. I think people have long felt Stroud would be number 1 or 2 off the board, and Young would be the other way, and now we know Young will be 1. So will Stroud fall? If Stroud gets to 4, what do the Colts do? Do they take him? I mean, he played down the road from them in Columbus, Ohio. Do they take him? Or do they say, no, we're good. We're going to go with Anthony Richardson. We're going to go another direction. We're not even going to take a quarterback. I think the Colts are compelled to take a quarterback. They have to. But there's been a lot of talk they love Will Levis. If Levis isn't there, what do? They trade back. I think those 2 picks, in a lot of ways, are going to kind of chart the course for the rest of the draft. Because if those quarterbacks start to slide, they might really slide. I don't know that the Raiders are going to take a quarterback. Tennessee certainly could. But you get past that, there are not a lot of teams for a while. I mean, you talk Washington's in there. They could take one, although they've been adamant they don't want one. Tampa Bay could. That wouldn't be shocking. Minnesota, I think 23. I mean, they're a team. They're the quintessential team with Cousins with 1 year left. Would they take a guy like Hendon Hooker? I am very interested. I think we're going to have 5 quarterbacks off the board in the first round. I don't think 5 are worthy of first round picks, but I think just the nature of the league, it's probably going to happen.
Brendan and I had this debate last week. Typically, there is at least 1, and on average, like 3 to 4 Hall of Fame players in each draft class. We were talking, you had to go back to like 1992, the last time there wasn't a Hall of Famer selected in the draft. And even then, Darren Woodson might get in someday. So, but usually there is a player who ends up in Canton who hears his name called during the course of the NFL draft. If there's a guy in this draft that you look at and say their ceiling is a bust to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who's the one guy that you feel the most confident saying that about?
That's a good question. It wouldn't be any of the quarterbacks. I'll tell you that. It would. I guess I would have to say Will Anderson. I think he's the best player in the class. I think he's the best player in the class. Now, yeah, it's so hard to sit here and say, yeah, I think guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. But that big one, him. I know some people say Bijan Robinson. I'm not taking a running back ever. I just, there's too many variables. Guys get hurt. They don't long careers. I would have to say Anderson. I'd have to say he's the best guy. I mean, Carter's an incredible talent, but I don't know. I mean, can he keep his head on straight? I have no idea. I love some of the corners, but you could go Christian Gonzalez, Devon Witherspoon. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. I think I'd have to say Will Anderson. I do think he's the best player in this draft.
Just a couple more minutes with Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. You can find his work at SI.com and in Sports Illustrated. You can also find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. He joins us every Monday here on the show to talk all things NFL. Matt, just speaking generally about this year's draft, is this a bad class? And I think that comes from a lot of, reports, and some of it's just rumors, some from, more reputable reporters, that a lot of teams only have maybe 15 or fewer first-round grades on this class. So is this a weak class overall, or is it just one that's a little bit deeper later into it as opposed to on day one?
I think it's a bad class. I think it's actually a pretty good class. I just think, like you said, it's got more depth than it has frontline guys who you're just overwhelmed by. I don't think you'll look at this class and go, hey, this is a class where there's 12 guys at the top who are all going to be all pro level players. I think it's more like you have 3 or 4 guys who you feel really confident in as major guys who are going to step in right away. But I think talking to people around the league, that space between like 15 and 75, there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of it. And I don't know that there's a ton of difference between the guys. So you might see teams try and trade down because they want to get more picks in that sweet spot. But I also think at the same point, and this has been said now over the last couple of weeks, and I've heard the same. This is going to be a draft where I just think you're going to have a lot of variance between what teams see on these draft boards. I think there's going to be certain receivers that maybe are number 20 overall on a team's board, and on another team's board, that same guy is number 40, and on another team's board, he's number 70. Like that, it is just a year where there's a lot of receivers are all over the board. There's a lot of edge rushers. I wouldn't be like, I'll give you an example. I wouldn't be surprised if Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa, if he goes in the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the second round. There's just so much of a difference of opinion on a lot of these guys, and that's not abnormal. But the amount of it this year feels abnormal. And I think part of the reason is just when you look around this class, there's not a lot of those like blue chip, absolutely like that guy, no doubt about it. Like everybody felt last year about Sauce Gardner, for example. I just don't know that many guys exist. There's no Jamar Chase for the receivers this year. There's no Andrew Luck at quarterback. So it's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to lead to a lot of trades. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of surprises where you go, wow, I can't believe that guy fell to X, or I can't believe that guy went 12th overall. I think we're going to see a lot of that this year.
In a similar vein, and to build on that, are there any positions that you believe or that you've heard from people around the league where it feels like if you don't get one of the top guys, you really might be missing out? To me, that's offensive tackle. Like there are a couple guys, Paris Johnson at the top. Skoronski could play inside or outside, but I know a lot of teams really like him. To me, it feels like if you don't get one of the best offensive tackles, you might not be able to get a starting caliber player later on. Is there a position for you that stands out like that where it may be really top heavy but not have a lot of depth?
I think, it's funny actually. I was asking one scout who he thought that the best positional group was in the entire draft, and he actually said the tackles.
Really?
He said that he thought that there might be 10 of them in the first 50 picks.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, but that's my point. Like, you're not crazy for having that opinion. And God knows there are some people in the NFL draft who share that opinion, who are in war rooms. Then there are other people who look at the class and go, I like 10 of these guys. I mean, it's nuts. I would say, look, the classes are probably the steepest drop off. Safety to me, if you don't draft Brian Branch early, you're probably not taking a safety until pick 50. That is not a good class. If there's one position you look at and go, oof, it's probably safe. I think you probably look at, the tight ends are pretty deep this year. Receiver deep. The quarterback is a thing where if you need a quarterback, you might want to get one in the first, because I don't know. After those top 5, I have no idea who's taking. I mean, Jake Hayner, maybe out of Fresno, he's probably the next guy, and he's probably a 3rd or 4th round pick. I would say too, I think there's a line of demarcation with the corners, in my opinion. Now, again, there's another group where you could sit there and say, okay, well, yes, the top 3. I think everybody feels like Witherspoon and Gonzalez are the top 2, and then you have Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State, and then it's beauty in the eye of the beholder, and I think that is true. But after those top 3, there's a significant drop off. So if you're a team that needs a corner and you can get into the top 15 picks, you might want to do it. But it's a weird draft this year. There are a lot of guys who you look at and go, that guy could be a really nice player. And there's a lot of guys you look at and go, I have no idea where he's going to go. And you could give me a 3-round range and it's all in play.
Matt Verderame covers the NFL for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. That's where you can find all of his great work covering the National Football League. You can also follow him on Twitter. His handle is @MattVerderame, and he joins us bottom of the 3 o'clock hour every Monday right here on 580 Sports Talk to talk all things NFL. Matt, will you be in Kansas City this weekend for the draft?
It will be. I am looking forward to eating enough barbecue to feed about 30 people.
Well, that's what I like to hear. We have never gotten to meet in person, so we're going to do that this weekend, okay?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Matt, we will see you then. Appreciate the time.
Sounds good.
That is Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Man, what a day.
What a day indeed.
You are going to get so much Jordan Love propaganda on your Twitter timeline between now and September 12th.
I'm just going to go ahead and mute.
Yeah, the mute now.
Mute the term Jordan Love.
Oof, man. Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. Chiefs have their number 31 overall pick coming up on Thursday. A lot going on in the NFL. And we've got Mock Draft Monday coming up to lead off the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk today. Also coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk about some sneaky needs for the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe what are they going to focus on late in the draft coming up on Saturday during day 3? We've also got the first What Is Wrong With You of the week. We're taking your texts, 785-272-9429, and your YouTube comments. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of the YouTube channel. We will get to all that and much more after the national and local news here on 580 WIBW. second hour of 580 Sports Talk getting underway on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero, and we are here with you until 6 o'clock this evening. Some Royals baseball coming on later tonight. Late first pitch out in the desert for Royals and D-backs. We will preview that series coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Excuse me, got hiccups here. This is a random passing thought I had regarding the Arizona baseball team earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone calls them the D-backs, which is fine. It's shorter than Diamondbacks.
They even put D-backs on their uniforms.
Diamondbacks is such a cool name. We should not be shortening it. Like Diamondbacks. I know it's a snake, but like that's just an awesome name. And it's unique and different, and we shouldn't be shortening it. That's my dumb take of the day for you.
I'm okay with that take.
Things that are cool should not be shortened. Like D-backs is whatever. It sounds like D-bags. Like that's not a good thing to be.
No.
Diamondbacks, that's
a very
sick.
Easy thing to call them.
Right.
Too.
If they were relevant and anyone cared about them, I think a lot of people probably would, but they're not, so they don't. But no, Diamondbacks is a cool name. I like that a lot.
They just right now they probably save this for this thought for later, but no, they're just a collection of guys right now, just like totally interchangeable first names and last names of like young, intriguing talents. And you could, you just flip flop their first and last names, and you could convince me that you were correct.
We could do a round of Arizona Diamondback bench player or farmer wants a wife.
No, you already got me with the Rays relievers. I'm up on the farmer wants a wife guys now.
A lot of drama on that show. We were watching, 911 Lone Star the other day, or maybe regular 911.
Okay, can we talk about that episode of 911 Lone Star?
Let's do it.
They caved in that man's chest. He was frozen solid.
Yeah, Rob Lowe.
And they were doing chest compressions on this man, and his hands went through his chest like he was a piñata. I had to get up and walk out of the room. We watched it last night, Abby and I.
Very loudly gasped when it happened. And so Dan and his wife, Abby, and myself and my wife, Abby, all watched 911 Lone Star. This was not a planned thing, by the way. This just happened parallel to
organically, yes.
It is, it's a lot. If you've never seen the show, it's entertaining. I mean, I enjoy it.
Yeah,
but it's a lot.
Fun hour of TV.
We have a rule in our house: no making fun of 911 while it's on, because my wife likes the show a lot, and I'm not supposed to make fun of it while it's on. And that's fair. I don't want to take away from something that we both enjoy and that she enjoys. But occasionally something happens, like a man becoming a human ice cube and then having his chest punctured by Rob Lowe.
Trying to do chest compressions on him. His hands went straight through. Where did they go? How did they come out clean? What was inside that man?
What was the prop? Like, what was it? Like a cardboard box? Like a chilled box and you just poked through it? I don't know. It was
like one of those CPR like dummies, except you hollow out.
Yeah, they left out in the sun for a few days and then just poked through the hard plastic.
I try not to make fun of the show while it's on, but that show definitely, among the shows that my wife and I watch together, the highest percentage of times where something has happened and I've gone, nah, man. Nah, man.
It was raining frogs in an episode this year and one fell right into a guy's mouth. This is serious. Like, we're not making this up.
No, we couldn't make this up if we tried. Dude was in a cryogenic freeze chamber and it broke and he froze to death and they didn't know he was dead. So they tried to do CPR, right? As you do. And Rob Lowe puts his hands on the man's chest and they go straight through his chest. Straight through.
Oh, man. Very funny. Very, very funny. Rob Lowe, by the way, we'll get to sports in a second here. There are so many actors or like roles I see in a movie or a TV show now where I go, Rob Lowe could do this. I was telling you the other day about Jury Duty, that show my wife and I were watching on Freevee. Very good, by the way. Very wholesome ending. And the whole time, the role James Marsden plays, just playing a parody of himself as James Marsden, the whole time I thought, Rob Lowe could do this exact same thing and just be Rob Lowe. He doesn't have to act. It just be himself.
The thing, though, is that all of his roles now are that.
Yeah, he's just plays himself.
Everything that Rob Lowe is in, yes, he's reached that level as an actor where he's just playing a version of himself.
We are like one season away from him getting way too self-referential on Lone Star and wearing an NFL hat on TV. One season away from that and just steering right into it. It is an incredibly funny show. Great, like, just kick back and don't think for an hour show.
Yes.
Very, very funny.
Speaking of the NFL,
Yes.
great segue.
Speaking of wearing a blank NFL hat, it is Mock Draft Monday. And over on our website, 580wibw.com, as we have throughout the month, we've got a post up with just an aggregation of mock drafts from around the internet. There are a couple that I wanted to get to in particular. The first isn't actually included in the post, but it's the one that's been talked about the most on football Twitter and around the football internet today. One of the most storied and still active writers in the NFL, in NFL history, Peter King. Works right now for NBC Sports, writes the Football Morning in America column on Monday mornings, and it's like 12,000 words long. I don't know how he does it every single week. So many words. He put together his mock draft for this week, and I got to pull up the full thing. The most important part of it is the Chiefs and who he has going to the Chiefs. An offensive lineman. Okay. Without context, makes some sense. He's got them taking an offensive guard, Osiris Torrance from Florida. Huh? What?
Torrance has been in a lot of first-round mocks.
He's second best guard in the draft.
Right. And Peter King's thought process is Joe Thuney is old. Ergo, the Chiefs should begin searching for his replacement. Osiris Torrance, best guard perhaps on the board, and a good athlete who moves like a tackle. Therefore, Chiefs draft Osiris Torrance at 31. I just can't wrap my head around the Chiefs using a draft pick in a Super Bowl window on a backup offensive guard, because in the best case scenario, that's what Osiris Torrance would be in the 2023 season, is a guy who doesn't see the field.
Like, that doesn't make any amount of... That's not even a luxury pick. That's a depth pick.
Yeah, it's one thing to draft like a rotational defensive end, because that's what they did last year with Karlaftis.
Right.
The idea is
huge dividends.
Yes, because he's going to play a bunch of enough snaps to be impactful and eventually grow into a starting role, but he's going to impact you day one. Or draft a third cornerback. You know, that you ease him in at the slot corner spot, and then maybe eventually he plays on the outside for you, or vice versa if you really like your slot guy.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one thing. But to say, no, the Chiefs need a Joe Thuney replacement. He's got 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
And it's not like, did Joe Thuney look like he was backsliding as a player to y'all last year? Because he didn't look like it to me.
No. Yeah, that's odd.
The other guard, Trey Smith, one of the best values in the NFL, is a Pro Bowl, all-pro level player on a rookie deal, a fifth-round rookie deal.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know.
With you.
Like, Peter King, wonderful career, well-sourced, take a lot of what he says seriously because he knows his stuff, but he's no Mel Kiper.
This sounds like a guy writing about football and not knowing football. Like, that might be insulting to Peter King, although I've held that opinion about some of the things he's written for a long time. But like this, there's no logic behind this at all. This entire mock draft from Peter King is kind of wild. He's got Bryce Young going first. That's going to happen. Bryce Young is going to be the Carolina Panthers' new quarterback. Houston takes Tyree Wilson, number 2.
Been hearing that a lot, that Houston really likes Tyree Wilson, but if they do like him so much, trade back with Indianapolis.
Right.
So Indy can jump up. Like if Indy's got the need for Will Levis, like, just make that phone call.
Right.
Trade down, and then Indy gets their guy, and it's pretty well known. Their guy is Levis, or at least pretty well suspected.
And on one hand, do you want to make a deal with a team in your own division? On the other hand, beggars cannot be choosers in that division. That division sucks. Yeah. Everyone is bad except the Jags, which is wild.
You need to make sure you get your guy.
He's got Tennessee moving up to number 3 to take CJ Stroud. I still think Stroud's going second. I feel like a lot of these stories are so fishy. I still think he's going second. But then he does have Houston taking a quarterback later. He's got them taking Hendon Hooker. You asked me today while we were sitting at our desks, like, you said, Brendan, you read a lot more of this stuff than I do. Can you explain Hendon Hooker in the first round to me? I cannot. I don't get it. He's a 25. He's going to be the oldest or the second oldest player in the entire draft, coming off of an ACL. who had a few mediocre college years and then one truly great year in maybe the most quarterback-friendly system in the country. I don't get it. Houston at least would make sense because they need a starter, but I don't. Like, if you're spending a top 12 pick on a 25-year-old off an ACL tear, man, more power to you, because I think that's dumb.
Yeah, he tore it in November.
Right. He's going to miss part of this year, one way or the other.
There is one team that makes a lot of sense because A, they don't need a starting quarterback right away, and B, they're not afraid to draft old guys. Like, historically, they have been fine with taking guys who are a little more seasoned coming out of college. And that's Seattle.
Yeah.
Like, when they drafted Bruce Irvin, I think Bruce Irvin was already like 24.
Wasn't Russ 24 or 23?
Russell Wilson, I think, was 23. They took D. Eskridge 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That hasn't worked out, but D. Eskridge was 23, 24.
Man, I thought Eskridge was going to be good.
He got a concussion in his first game, and it never hasn't gotten back on track for him, which is unfortunate. But they're not afraid to draft older players, and so there's a certain amount. Like, if Seattle took Hendon Hooker at number 20, I wouldn't love it, but I would like, okay, this kind of tracks.
Yeah.
Like, they're looking for a guy who can learn behind Geno Smith for a year, maybe two, and they don't mind taking a guy who's a little older. On the flip side, he would be 26 before he started an NFL game. Like, the track record of older quarterbacks is not inspiring. This guy's like Brandon Weeden and Chris Weinke.
Yeah. I don't get it. The other quarterback intrigue in this Peter King mock draft is where Anthony Richardson goes. Will Levis, he has going 4th, Indianapolis, like you mentioned. C.J. Stroud 3rd, Bryce Young 1st, Hendon Hooker 12th. He's got Anthony Richardson falling to 23 to Minnesota. I do not refute the notion that Minnesota wants its quarterback of the future. I think that makes sense. They're not. It's a never say never thing with the draft because guys slide or get taken early or than you expect all the time. I would be genuinely floored if Minnesota can get Anthony Richardson at 23. Like, that feels like if you want him, you got to move up to get him this year. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of the hype about Anthony Richardson has been entirely media driven, and he's actually not viewed as a top 10 guy by most of the league, which is certainly possible. That happens all the time. But, man, based on what we have heard from people we trust, I don't think you get that guy at 23.
No,
I feel like you got to be top 10 to pick him.
Because, like, if you're Seattle and you want a quarterback, which Todd McShay at ESPN.com today said he would be very surprised if Seattle, with their 2 first-round picks, were to leave Kansas City without a quarterback on day one.
Interesting.
If you're sitting at number 20 and Hendon Hooker and Anthony Richardson are both on the board, like, and you don't take Anthony Richardson, you take Hendon Hooker instead of Anthony Richardson? What?
Yeah. You see, even Houston in this exercise, if you don't think he's good enough right now, okay, well, then you play Davis Mills. Like, Davis Mills can play 8 games or one more year while Richardson waits or whatever. Like, you can live with that. I just don't get it. That doesn't make any amount of sense to me. I'm going to guess Peter King's not going to have one of the more accurate mock drafts this year.
No, I think his accuracy score is going to be low. He's also got Bijan Robinson in the top 10.
I don't buy it, man.
Right now, I saw as of this morning, and I want to say it was one of the sports books. I think it was FanDuel, where you could bet on who Bijan Robinson will be drafted by. The Falcons, who pick 8th, by far the favorite, plus 250.
I guess I see it. Like, you're trying to get as many weapons as you can. Their skill positions would be really good if you have Pitts, London, and Robinson. Those 3 guys as 3 first-round skill position players in the top 10 the last 3 years. That's a pretty good haul. But, like, you need to figure out if Desmond Ridder can play. Like, I would rather do something to either help your really crappy defense, although you mentioned it to me earlier, they've actually added a lot of pieces there. I'd rather get an offensive lineman or someone who can help Ridder as opposed to, and help you know if Ridder's actually an NFL quarterback as opposed to, oh, here's a running back for you. It's like, okay, well, if Ridder can't throw, you just put 7 in the box on every play, and Bijan's great, but can he solve that? I don't see it. The other team that keeps coming up with Bijan Robinson is the Eagles. Here's a trivia question for you. So Howie Roseman took over as GM of the Eagles before the 2010 draft, January of 2010. So he's been there for 13 drafts so far. How many times have the Eagles used a pick in the top 3 rounds on a running back since Howie Roseman took over?
I'm trying to think. Their current guys, like I know they drafted Sanders and Gainwell, but I don't think those were top 3.
Miles Sanders was a 2nd-round pick.
He was
in 2019. They let him walk. They didn't even make an offer. They just let him walk.
Yeah.
And he ended up in Carolina, I believe.
I think
which is a
that's
good
right.
fit for both sides. That is one top 3-round pick on a running back in 13 years. They don't value running. They were ahead of the curve in just saying we'll play anyone at running back and it'll work. I mean, look at who their coach was. You know, it was Andy Reid,
right?
For a long time.
They're a team that might make more sense for a name that Todd McShay at ESPN.com said is getting a lot of helium lately. Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama, smaller back,
good pass
probably
catcher.
Good pass catcher. Probably going to have to be used as part of a rotation, not a bell cow running back. But the Eagles have the mechanism in place to make that work. Maybe that's the Eagles guy if they go running back.
Which 2nd round, maybe that would make sense. Although, I don't know. I mean, I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's a good player. I like Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan's a great player. I think he's going to be an instant day 1 starter in the NFL. But I mean, do you spend that much on a running back? Does that make a whole lot of sense? I don't know. I think it's a difficult exercise because all it takes is one, though. Like, all it takes is, I don't know, the Patriots at 14 to say, you know what? Actually, we've never valued running backs, but now we value Bijan Robinson and we're going to draft him. And he's a top 15 pick. But it's just such an invaluable position. No one's even offering 2nd contracts to guys anymore.
Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned the Eagles. Miles Sanders, good player, good starting running back. Eagles said, "Now we're good without you. We don't need you." I just find out.
But the last time there was a running back as good as Bijan Robinson entering the draft, he went top 5.
Saquon?
Yeah.
Also true. And last year it paid off. Last year in his rookie year, it definitely paid off for Saquon.
Yeah.
Just was hurt a lot in the middle. A couple other mock drafts we'll get to here on Mock Draft Monday. Jesse Newell, Kansas City Star. He's got a couple repeat picks from ones he's had in the past. Jesse does a great job. He did a full 7 rounds because he is, in a flattering way, a sicko. His number 1 pick, Quentin Johnston to the Chiefs. That's what I've got, too, for the Chiefs' 1st-round pick. A lot of workouts. I think he's going to be available. Good yak guy. Has a little bit of size. Plenty of speed. Hands are iffy. Separation is okay. I mean, that feels like a guy, if the Chiefs put in a little work with him, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs. Because, again, it fits what they want. It's not necessarily just speed. It's not necessarily a size thing. Can you get open? This entire Chiefs passing game is built on every single route is a part of the play. Get open. Find a way to get open. Use your gifts and the scheme to get separation. That's what Quentin Johnston is best at. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm with Jesse on that. I've got the same 1st-round pick. 2nd round, he's got Siaki Ika from Baylor, interior defensive lineman.
Big defensive tackle.
Large man.
Your Derek Nottie replacement eventually.
Isaiah McGuire, edge rusher from Missouri in the 3rd round. Your 2 4th-rounders. Have you noticed, by the way, one position that has not been drafted yet? Jalen Jones, cornerback, Texas A&M with pick 122. It takes all the way till the Chiefs' 5th pick, end of the 4th round, to get an offensive tackle. That's Carter Warren from Pitt, a guy who Jesse's had for the Chiefs a couple of times. I wouldn't feel great about that, to be honest with you, waiting that long. Because like I told Matt, I just don't think there's a lot of good tackles after the top 35 prospects or so.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think you need to draft somebody who can realistically push Lucas Niang and not be somebody who, gosh, we hope we're all but handing the job to Lucas Niang. Has he started an NFL game yet?
No. I mean, how many games has Lucas Niang even played? No, that's a lie. He did. He started last year. He started the first couple games last year. Did he not? Or am I mistaken?
I think you're mistaken. It was Wiley from the jump, wasn't it?
I guess it was. Yeah. No, okay. He started 9 and 21.
Okay.
All right. So I had my.
So he hasn't started a game in a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year he played in 7 games and almost entirely on special teams. That to me doesn't sound like a player they have a lot of faith in. Like, he played 19% of their special teams snaps last year. He played 9 offensive snaps in 17 games. That's a little worrisome to me.
Yeah, that would be very surprising if they would turn around and say, "Oh, we have enough faith in this guy that we're going to start him."
Right.
But his primary challenge is going to be a mid-round pick and not a day 1 or early day 2 pick. Unless maybe it's Darian Kennard season. Like, who can say?
Maybe. I mean, we both loved Kennard coming out of last year's draft.
Feels more like a guard in the NFL, though. But
yeah,
who knows what they're doing, what he's doing with his body, and where they want him to play.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting. I just don't. I think Anton Harrison is pretty much like the last player where I would say, he's not great. He's not a great prospect, but fine. I think NFL.com, Lens Zierlein, their grading scale has him rated as within 2 years will be an average starter. Like, if you're the Chiefs, would you take average for 4 years at right tackle? Yeah, because you've got greatness from right guard theoretically through left tackle, or at least good at left tackle. I would happily take that. Other picks, by the way, for Jesse in that mock draft that are of note: Keaton Mitchell, his running back, he takes in the 6th round from East Carolina. That's another guy he's had a bunch. Hunter Lepke from North Dakota State, fullback. Every single team that uses a fullback has been mocked to get Hunter Lepke in the 7th round, because the Packers I know have, the Chiefs have, the Ravens have. Every team that has a fullback has been mocked Hunter Lepke from North Dakota State. A couple other ones to get to here. Chad Reuter from NFL.com. He's got the Chiefs moving up to take Zay Flowers, up to 24. That'd be a trade with the Jaguars to move up 7 spots. Zay Flowers worth that?
I don't know. Kind of depends on the compensation for that 7-pick jump, but I like the player, and I'm at the point with Brett Veach that if they feel the type of way about him that they feel about Trent McDuffie, that he can start, that Zay Flowers isn't just like coming in to be part of the mix, not like a Sky Moore role, like it's him and Tony and MVS next year. If that's how they feel, then they should go get that player.
I guess it just comes down to, what do you think, what it would cost to move up 7 spots? And if you're the Jags, are you in a spot where you can say we'll trade with anyone because we're still in the get better mode? Or are the Jags good enough? Do they feel they're good enough to say, we don't really want to trade with the Chiefs?
Yeah, we don't want to help the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year.
Like, do we want to make that move? That's, it's always easy to say, oh, you should trade back or you should trade up. It takes 2 to tango.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a curious one to me. One other one I wanted to get to. This is from Nick Jacobs from KSHB. This will round out Mock Draft Monday. Very up and down draft for me. His 1st-round pick is Mozzie Smith from Michigan. We've been over Mozzie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Do you trust the measurables over the production? Because if you do, I get it, even though it's not really a major 1st-round need. If you are more of a tape guy and you want to see it on the page before you draft it, I don't think it makes any sense for the Chiefs, to be honest with you. Like, why are you drafting your 4th most important offense or defensive lineman in the 1st round? I don't get it. And he didn't really do anything at Michigan. Like, he was fine, but he wasn't like, oh my God, you have to have that player.
Yeah, athletic freak, but it's one thing to be the most athletic guy in the field. You got to make football plays.
Right. And I don't know that he's going to make enough of those. The next 2 picks I'm interested in. Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver from Ole Miss. A lot of people like Jonathan Mingo because he's a super crazy athlete. His relative athletic score off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Did great job at the combine. Blake Freeland, offensive tackle from BYU in the 3rd round. We've saw that name a lot early in the process. We know Andy Reid likes BYU guys. If you're just trying to find competition for right tackle and want to take a flyer, I get it. Again, I'd rather do it earlier, but I can get it there.
Yeah.
One other pick I really like in this one, though, his late round running back, 6th round, Travis Dye from USC, started his career 3 years at Oregon, 1 year at USC. Now, he got hurt. He injured his knee, or was it a broken leg, at the very end of last season for USC.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a Colorado game, I think.
Yeah, which was tough because, man, he is a good player. If he's healthy and you don't need him a ton early in the season, I would love for Travis Dye to be your 3rd running back. I think that'd be a really good fit. Any other thoughts on any of these mock drafts before we get to a commercial break?
I'm just glad to not be drowning in them in 3 days. I'm ready for the real thing.
It's a lot of information overload. Like, even doing this mock draft video project I'm doing, and we're going to give our first-round mock drafts. You, me, Fulton, and Jake all coming up later this week. It's a lot of names and a lot of, was he the one with the 10-foot broad jump? Or was it someone else? Was it 10? I don't remember. There's a lot of information overload. As always, we're taking your thoughts on all things draft, either on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can hop into the comment section on YouTube. The name of our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Let's get to a break. What is wrong with you is next here on 580 Sports Talk.
What the hell? What the hell?
It's time for the first What Is Wrong With You of the week here on 580 Sports Talk. We are getting dangerously close to our monthly championship. In fact, Dan, I guess we're doing our monthly championship on Thursday this week, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Friday, no show because we've got Royals day game baseball followed immediately by K-State baseball. So we're off on Friday.
And we got no show really Wednesday either.
Yeah, so no What Is Wrong With You then. So
yeah, semifinals and finals on Thursday.
Sounds perfect to me. So we've got 2 days of entrance for this month. Why don't you go first with our first story today? But real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off after giving you the floor. I do want to remind you that What Is Wrong With You is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, sponsoring What Is Wrong With You. Dan, the floor is yours.
No, thank you very much. We go back to Thursday, which was 420. We, of course, are very familiar with what that means.
Blaze it, folks.
And a 30-year-old gentleman in Allen County, Kansas, was trying to mark the occasion by sparking up while he was behind the wheel of a truck. And that had consequences. He was on U.S. Highway 54 just west of gas, which is appropriate. He had that gas. And was driving with his knees, trying to light up, toke up, celebrate 420, and ran his truck off the road, crossed over 3 lanes, went into a ditch, was stopped by a cement culvert, a large fence corner post, a telephone junction box, and a utility pole. He hit a lot of things on his way off the road. He was not wearing a seatbelt, but thankfully, he was only just kind of tossed around inside the cab of his truck and received minor injuries. The gentleman was taken into custody for possession of marijuana, along with possession of meth, which is, to my knowledge, not celebrated on 420. I don't think we have a meth day.
Not that I'm aware of.
Maybe in Florida they have one. And possession of drug paraphernalia as well. Also one of the charges for this gentleman in Allen County, Kansas.
I love that this story calls 420 Weed Day. Like,
sounds like what your like out of touch parents would call it.
So
like
Johnny, you celebrate that 420 Weed Day last week?
That's that weed day, isn't it? It's the day where you all smoke your weeds.
Oh man, that's funny. Kid, you know who else has his own day in the spring? That's right. Yeah, this was dumb. What a very dumb guy. Don't drive high. Please, don't drive drunk. Don't drive high either. It's just dumb. I don't know if you noticed. Well, yeah, you don't have to get on the interstate to drive home now. I do. So I always see those road signs, the big electronic road signs. On 420, they all said, don't drive high. That was good advice. Don't do it.
I've seen a lot of the don't drive high PSA during the NBA and the NHL playoffs. I think I've seen that ad with the very relaxed teenage girl, I will say.
Yeah, during Denver games, that makes sense.
Hey, now.
Well, it's got a reputation. I'm not saying everyone from there participates.
Listen, I would rather watch that ad on repeat than see the Amazon ad with the girl with the mustache and the Freddie Mercury yellow jacket. If I see that ad one more time, I swear to God, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah. What is it advertising?
That you can get anything you want on Amazon.
I'm not sure what, I can look like a rock star if I go to Amazon. It's a very odd ad, and it's very bad, and I agree with you. My story for today, another fairly local one. We're going to the Ozarks. We're going to Republic, Missouri. This, by the way, this story was entered by multiple people to me, so shout out to listener Ryan as well as my wife, Abby, who both sent me this story. On April 18th, Republic police officers were called to a price cutter, not to be confused with Price Chopper, to respond to a call about a robbery in which a man held an employee at gunpoint so that he would be served meat. Keep your mind out of the gutter. Larry Gay, 70 years old of Springfield, Missouri, is charged with one felony count of unlawful use of a weapon and a felony count of armed criminal action. Court documents show that officers responded to the scene and ordered Gay to get out of his truck so they could arrest him. After he was taken into custody, an officer removed a loaded semi-automatic pistol with a bullet in the chamber from Gay's hip holster. In an interview, Gay said he went to the price cutter to buy steaks. He told the good man who was helping him that they needed to weigh the steaks. However, that meat department was closed. Gay said at that point he showed his gun, quote, just to say I'm not stealing.
Yes.
I need you here to get me a couple of these steaks. I'm not going to hurt you.
Yes, because the one thing I always think when I see somebody flash a gun, two things I always think is that person isn't going to hurt me and that person isn't going to steal anything or try to take something that isn't theirs. The gun really conveys both of those messages extremely effectively in all situations.
With the bullet in the chamber. That helps too. The officer then asked Gay why he thought the people in the store called store police and told them that he was threatening them with his gun. Gay said, quote, I don't know. I have no idea. The employee said he received a call from the meat department about a man packing his own meat. Again, mine's out of the gutter. The employee then approached Gay and told him he could not be there. Gay got upset and said he was going to keep doing what he was doing. The employee said he was not going to help him with the meat. Once he held the gun to my throat, pushed it into my throat, I decided to comply, the employee told police.
Probably smart.
This man is being held on $50,000 bond. He has not yet had a scheduled court appearance. So the gentleman's story was, well, it was closed and I just really needed help. So I just flashed my gun and said, I'm not going to hurt you. The employee's story who called the police said, no, he actually put the gun right to my throat and told me I needed to pack this meat for him.
I believe the employee, first of all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to fret too much over who I trust in this story.
Why is it that your gun went into the grocery store with you? Like, I don't know, man.
You clearly wanted to get a point across.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person bringing your gun into the grocery store, it doesn't take a big leap in logic to make me assume that you might be the kind of person to put it to somebody's neck when they decline to help you weigh your meat. Particularly if you are also the kind of person who's just going to take your own meat despite the meat department being closed and think, well, this rule doesn't apply to me. This doesn't apply to me because I'm an old man with a gun.
Yeah. Rules are for people who need rules.
Yeah.
I don't need rules.
Rules are for the gunless.
I think my dad said that one time when he got a speeding ticket. Said rules are for people who need rules. Who's your winner for today?
My winner for today, I am going to go with the guy who waved the blicky around at the grocery store.
Dude, go back tomorrow morning. Go earlier. Don't procrastinate.
Find someplace with a meat department that may be open later.
Yeah, go to a Hy-Vee. Like, go somewhere else. I'm sure there are other places to buy steak other than the price cutter.
Buy the prepackaged steaks, like I do.
Yeah, right. Those are fine.
Those are already wrapped. They say what their price is.
Come on, man. Awful. That's my winner, too, and he is our winner for today in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. Let's get to a commercial break. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, though, what are some of the low-key, sneaky needs the Chiefs have in this year's draft? We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk. Back on 580 Sports Talk, Brendan and Dan here with you on this Monday afternoon. Thanks so much for being a part of the show with us. Dan, during the break, came up with a name for our What Is Wrong With You winner, and it's tremendous.
Yeah, it's our heat packing meat packer.
That's really good. And I'm very glad we get to bring that up again tomorrow.
Yes.
Very happy about that. The Kansas City Chiefs, as we have gone over umpteen times, we know what they need in the draft this year. Need pass rushing help, need pass catcher help, need an offensive tackle, need a right tackle specifically. what are the sneaky needs that they have? So really, what is the plan for day 3 going to look like? Or even maybe round 3 and beyond this year? Because we know what they have to get. The Chiefs know what they have to get. It's very obvious. But what are some positions where you say, I think the Chiefs kind of need some depth here. I think the Chiefs kind of need a project player here who can maybe do special teams and will be a future starter. And there's 2 that jump out to me right away. One we've talked about a bit, but haven't really dove into a whole lot. It's running back. Because, Clyde, I would be shocked if he's on the team week 1. I really would be. It just feels like that relationship has run its course. There were quotes from Brett Veach last week, too, made it feel like, he's not a long-term part of this team. So you've got Pacheco. Isaiah McKinnon not signed yet. I'm with you, though. I kind of think they're going to get a deal done with him at some point this offseason. I believe it was you who told me that last week.
Yeah. They've been talking to his people, and I just would really be. It makes too much sense. It's too good a fit.
And honestly, he's had enough injury concerns, and he was in games a lot last year and was worn down a little bit toward the end of the season into the playoffs. If he wants to skip OTAs and mandatory workouts, man, go for it. You've been in the league long enough. You know the system. You don't need to be there for that. So I do think he will come back. You need another running back, though. You need 3 because the Chiefs like to bring in that third guy a little bit. I think, and we went through a couple mock drafts earlier that had running backs late. I know a guy you and I both like is Tajay Spears from Tulane. I think enough teams like him that he might not be around on day 3. But if he is, if he's there at pick 122 for the Chiefs, that first 4th rounder they have, I would take him in a heartbeat. I think he's the kind of complementary piece to Isaiah Pacheco, where you've got one who's more of a home run hitter. Pacheco is just a menace to try to bring down. I would love that pairing. Travis Dye from USC in the late rounds. That's the guy I mentioned earlier I would really like. I do think you need a running back at some point because I think just the numbers game doesn't line up right now. So whether that's early day 3, late day 3, I would be shocked if there's not at least one this year. I think there pretty much has to be.
Yeah, that feels right. Kind of like last year where they go Pacheco in the 7th and then he turns into their starter. They don't need that to happen again. Obviously, they don't need to strike gold, but do think they need to, put the pan down and sift and see if there's anything there with regard to the running backs. I think there are a lot, as you went through, of intriguing names at that position, I think, on day 3.
The other position, and I looked through the roster to make sure that I wasn't missing something. I think the Chiefs need another safety this year.
Yes, this was going to be my first answer. Yeah.
Because you've got Brian Cook, who's got 3 more years on his rookie deal. He's going to start for you. You've got Justin Reed, who is under contract for 2 more years. There is a very easy out after next year if you wanted to move on from him. You would save, I want to say it's in the neighborhood of $11 million against the cap if you wanted to move on from him. So that is far from a nailed-on move. You brought back Deion Bush, who they actually have listed as defensive back, not even as safety. He's a special teamer more than anything, which is fine. You need those guys. You brought in Mike Edwards, like that move. 1-year deal. That's a temporary thing. And then you've got Najee Johnson for another couple of years. He was a 7th rounder last year. Again, more of a core special teamer than probably a real threat defensively.
Mm-hmm.
You need another safety in that group, even if it's just a backup. And you say, no, Cook and Edwards and Reed, that's the 3-man rotation. We know all well how much Spags likes to use 3 safeties in their nickel. That's fine. You got to have some more depth than that, though. So I think safety is a surefire day 3 need.
Yeah, I think they're going to take a safety, and it's not a good safety class. Matt Verderame in hour number 1 said that is maybe the one position above any others in this year's draft where it's just there are not a lot of real good players at that spot. And that makes it tough for a team that could use one. But again, if you're the Chiefs, you're not coming at this from this is a position of extreme need. We're not trying to draft a starter at the spot, but we are looking for another like Najee Johnson, somebody in day 3 who can be a depth piece, learn the defense. Maybe they're a special teamer from day 1, and somebody who can potentially step in and play some snaps if needed, or take Mike Edwards' spot in the lineup if Edwards is only around for a year. The other spot that I was thinking for the Chiefs was cornerback. And the only reason I say cornerback, not because I don't like the 4 that they've got, but 2 reasons. Number 1, you talk about striking gold. The Chiefs tend to do that in day 3 with cornerbacks. Brett Veach is been aces taking defensive backs in late day three of the draft. And the other thing is, I think there is a question coming up about L'Jarius Sneed. Does he get a long-term contract, or is this his final year with the team? I am of the mind that if they were going to do an extension with L'Jarius Sneed, I think they might have done it already, or we'd have heard something about them wanting to do it already. And all has been quiet on that front. So my thought is L'Jarius Sneed could walk, and the Chiefs, I mean, Sneed's a valuable player in his role. They're going to be looking for somebody with the same kind of traits as L'Jarius Sneed. Some ball skills, yes, but the ability to be aggressive and the ability to make plays in the backfield. Sneed has brought that and been so valuable. I think they're going to look for a player in that mold in day three.
I think there's two ways to look at the Sneed situation right now. It's either they have become pretty adept at waiting out longer deals and getting them done in the summertime, like Chris Jones the last time. That was a summertime deal. Mahomes was a midsummer. Now, obviously, Sneed and Mahomes are on different planes, but you know what I mean. And I think that's when we'll see a Chris Jones deal done. I think it'll be sometime June, hell, maybe even early July, just before training camp. I think that'll be when we see Chris Jones get done. So maybe it takes a little while to get Sneed. But at the same time, if you keep hitting on these guys with regularity, do you need to pay him the big bucks? Or does it end up being like a Travarius Ward situation where, man, you were a huge contributor to this team. You made a bunch of big plays, very valuable. Thank you for your time. Go get paid somewhere else. And, well, fourth rounder ends up doing that. That's still a win for you in your draft. These are the guys the Chiefs have taken on day 3 in the defensive backfield since Veach took over in 2018. That was his first draft anyway. First year, okay, Armani Watts, that one didn't really work out.
No.
But, whatever. 2019, they took in the 6th round, Rashad Fenton. That's a hit. That is absolutely a hit.
Starting caliber player. Yes.
Hell, his best year was the Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a hit. In 2020, they took 2. L'Jarius Sneed in the 4th round. Home run right there. And then Bo Pete Keys, that's just a flyer in the 7th round. In the 2021 draft, they actually did not take a defensive back late in that class. Last year, though, 4th round, Joshua Williams, already a hit there. Jalen Watson, already a hit there. Najee Johnson, that's special teams depth, if nothing else. And as a 7th rounder, that's totally fine.
Right.
I mean, that's an incredible hit rate on those guys. Plus, throwing Brian Cook as a 2nd rounder, that's a win. They moved up and got Trent McDuffie 1st round. That's a win. This year's corners are so good. It is so deep at corner, compared to safety that's so shallow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like one player in the safety class, and it's Brian Branch. The corner, there are guys into the 3rd round who could be day 1 starters.
Yeah.
Like DJ Turner, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of years, you may be talking about him as a late 1st round pick, early 2nd round pick. A lot of places have him not going until the 70s. That could be a day 1 starter for someone. So there's so much depth and so much talent. I'm with you. I think you almost have to take a player at that spot, right? When there's so much talent, you can't come away with nothing.
Yeah, and the track record of success. Clearly there's a formula. There's something that works for the Chiefs when they're identifying players at that position. Clearly they have a type, they have a formula, whatever you want to call it, that has helped them to identify players and then develop those players into, what do we say? 5 guys drafted on day 3 since Veach has been the GM, and 3 of them have been starters?
That's incredible. That's amazing. At the same spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Plus, you think about a lot of the value L'Jarius Sneed has when he came up, if you remember, was the versatility. It was like, yeah, he can play safety, he can play corner, he can do a bunch of different things. Well, he's turned into one of the best slot corners in the NFL over the last couple of years. It is incredible how successful the Chiefs have been. And the fact that they've got a bunch of picks, it gives them so much versatility. And we've talked about this a ton, but you can move up if you want. You could, in theory, move back if you want. And do we want 2 running backs? We just want to have some competition? All right, you know what? Picks 249 and 250. We're just going to take the 2 best running backs left. Or we're just going to have them compete for the 3rd running back spot. You can do that if you want. You can do that with corners, safeties, whatever. So much versatility. The Chiefs are in, honestly, an unbelievable spot draft-wise for a team just coming off a Super Bowl. Let's get to our news break here at the top of the hour. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we've got some Royals Diamondbacks to talk about. We've got a ton of 580 Sports Talk headlines, including today's playoff roundup. We'll get to your texts and your comments on the YouTube stream as well. All that and so much more coming up with Brendan and Dan in the 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. to go on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We always appreciate you stopping by, whether you're just listening in, whether you're watching on YouTube, hopping in the comment section, sending in a text. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We got a very busy week with the NFL draft coming up. Dan and I have a short week in particular. We will have just a little bit of showtime probably coming up on Wednesday. Royals have a weird first pitch, 2:40 first pitch from Arizona on Wednesday. And then they've got a day game followed up by some K-State baseball on Friday, so no show for us to end the week. Our final day will be Thursday going into round number 1 of the NFL draft. Royals baseball coming up tonight. It'll be Royals versus Diamondbacks out at Chase Field in Phoenix. Late first pitch, no overtime for us. We'll be done right at 6 o'clock. Royals Radio Network will pick it up half an hour, before first pitch tonight. Coming up here in this hour of 580 Sports Talk, though, we'll preview that game. We've got our playoff roundup and the rest of our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And, of course, we'll take your texts, 785-272-9429. Comment section also open on YouTube. The name of our channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. We have truly a ton of NFL draft content coming later on this week. So if you want to be the first to see it, if you want to make sure you see it, period, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to Sports on 580 WIBW. That's the name of our channel. It's free to subscribe. All you need is a YouTube account, which is the same as your Google account. If you have a Gmail email address, you already have a YouTube account. You might not have even known it. So just go hit subscribe on our channel, and you will see all of our videos as soon as they go live. So with that, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. First one for me, lead off the show. In fact, we talked about it a bunch during the 3 o'clock hour because, well, it happened live as we were on the air. Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. The terms of the deal, it still needs to be finalized. Rodgers has to take his physical. That's where this gets wild. What if he doesn't pass his physical and this all falls apart? That would be wild.
He's more ayahuasca than man at this point.
So the New York Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers, who will replace Zach Wilson as their full-time starting quarterback. They're also getting a 5th round pick this year. That is pick number 170. The Packers are getting pick number 13 this year. So they are, and I missed, the Jets are also getting number 15. So they're swapping first-round picks. It's a 2-spot swap. Packers move to 13. Jets drop back to 15. The Packers also get a 2nd rounder this year, number 42, a 6th rounder, number 207. So they swap 5th and 6th. And they get a conditional pick next year. It is a 2nd rounder that could become a 1st if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps for the Jets this year. So if he plays 11.05 games for the Jets, the Packers will get the draft pick as a 1st rounder as opposed to a 2nd rounder. It is also reported by Tom Pelissero of NFL Network that as soon as the deal is finalized, there will be immediately a contract restructure for Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets are going to facilitate that and a majority of the contract. So essentially anything the Packers don't have to take, they're not going to end up taking. I get this for the Jets. You have a roster and a coaching staff that you believe is going to lead you to a Super Bowl. You earnestly, honestly think you are Aaron Rodgers away from contending for a Super Bowl. And if you believe that, then this is worth it. Eating the money, giving up the draft picks, possibly a 1st rounder next year, that is worth it to you. If it all works out and you feel like that is the only piece you're missing from contending for a Super Bowl. And honestly, I get it. And I respect going for it. You got to do what you got to do. By the same token, the Packers now get an additional 2nd round pick. That's a starting caliber player. They improve their spot in the 1st round of the draft, which with a wide receiver needy team, 1 spot ahead of them previously, that now you jump, maybe there's some value there. And you might get a 1st rounder next year, and you don't have to pay most of that salary. I mean, this is the best deal the Packers could have hoped for. And it's hard as a fan that Aaron Rodgers is gone, but I knew he was gone. I've known for over a month now that he was going to be gone, and I think every Packers fan did. It's Jordan Love's show now, and now you've got a chance to put as many pieces around him and help up that defense as much as possible around him going into his first year as a starter. I get it for the Jets, and at the same time, I don't think this could have worked out any better for the Packers.
Yeah, that I think it's one of those trades where I think if you're a Jets fan, you're a Packers fan, you feel really good. It feels like a win-win for both sides on paper, that the Packers were able to get probably more in draft value than they anticipated. I thought that when this got done, that it would be very unlikely that a first-round pick would change hands in this scenario. I didn't think, because there was no leverage. Green Bay had no leverage. He said he wasn't going to play for you. He said where he was going to play, so it's not like you could shop him around. I am impressed that they were able to get even a conditional first-round pick. As you explained, it's the second that turns into a first if he plays 65% of the snaps, which Rodgers has been pretty durable in the course of his career, and if he plays half the games or a little more than half the games, then he's going to hit that benchmark, and it's going to be a first-round pick you get in return. So if you're Green Bay, I think you feel really good about a situation where you didn't have a ton of leverage going into the trade. And if you're the Jets, it's the best quarterback to put on your uniform since Matt Verderame said Joe Namath. That's a little extreme. That is Boomer Esiason erasure, and I won't stand for it. But
Chad Pennington was all right.
Yeah, Pennington had a couple okay years. Brett Favre had 8 really good games before he tweaked his elbow. But it is the upgrade at quarterback that this franchise needed, breathes life into the Jets, in the sense that they were close to making the playoffs last year, and their quarterback situation might have been not the worst in the league, but one of the worst in the league, certainly. And there was no path forward with Zach Wilson. So you get the veteran quarterback, the established Hall of Fame quarterback, to go with all this exciting young talent. Maybe this re-energizes Rodgers, and you get some good football out of him as he enters his 40s, and the desire to play maybe returns for Rodgers a little bit, or maybe he's shot. But it's a risk worth taking if you're the Jets. So I think both sides get to feel really good today.
Similarly for the Packers, one other note I want to add. It's a second rounder that becomes a first next year if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps. If Rodgers isn't playing 65% of the snaps for the Jets next year, that second rounder is probably going to be in the first half of the round.
Right.
So that's a pretty good pick regardless. Yeah. No, I'm honestly really pleased with how this turned out for Green Bay. And it's sad that Aaron Rodgers is gone. As I said earlier, more than half my life, he has been the starting quarterback of the Packers. And that's tough when that changes. And it's sad when you invest a lot of emotional energy in someone and then suddenly they're gone. But, I'm ready to move on. Packers end up doing pretty well with this class and now get to maybe get Jackson Smith-Njigba, which I'd be very happy about in the first round of this year's draft. Or they're going to take a tackle. They're going to take like Broderick Jones from Georgia, and that's going to be it.
I was going to ask you, because a lot of the mock drafts that had the Packers taking a receiver or a tight end, is that more or less likely at 13 overall?
I think more. I would think more, at least for wide receiver, because that makes you closer to the possibility of getting Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's, the cream of the crop for wide receivers in this class. And I will reveal our full mocks later in the week, but I had the Patriots getting Smith-Njigba at number 14, one spot ahead of the Packers. So at least in my universe, this works out even better. But I don't know. It would just be such a tendency breaker for them. I think the Packers, in my mock draft, I had them going Lucas Van Ness, the edge rusher from Iowa, who super crazy athlete, didn't really produce much at Iowa, played against good offensive lines. Like, it's just an incredibly Packers pick. So until they prove me otherwise, I don't think it's going to change much. But who knows? Brian Gutekunst is going nuts now. Maybe he's going to go crazy. Maybe he's going to move up and go get Will Levis. And we're going to have a quarterback competition. And it'll just be crazy. I don't know. Hard to say. But I'm happy about it. I think this is about as good as the Packers could have hoped for.
Moving on in our 580 Sports Talk headlines, let's get into it.
Playoffs?
Roundup time.
Yeehaw!
My man, you put your back into that. I like that.
I felt good. I was recharged from the weekend.
A lot of
playoffs
action to catch up on over the course of the weekend from the NHL and the NBA. How about this from the NHL? Saturday and Sunday, home teams 0-8.
Woo!
Home ice advantage, not a factor this weekend. If you were a road team, you were living large. Road teams won every single first-round game contested Saturday and Sunday. What did that mean yesterday? It means the Carolina Hurricanes and Boston Bruins have commanding 3-1 series leads out east over the Islanders and Panthers, respectively. Also means we've got level terms in the two Western Conference first-round series that were being played yesterday. The Stars and the Oilers, even their series against the Wild and the Kings, respectively. Oilers needed a 3-goal comeback and overtime to take down the pesky Kings. And even that series, the two, Zach Hyman with the OT winner. So those series are both even. Tonight, the series scenes shift to the two Eastern and Western series playing game 4s tonight. The Devils and the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Devils won game 3. That series is 2-1 in favor of the Rangers. Toronto at Tampa Bay. The Maple Leafs won game 3, and they have a 2-1 series lead over the Lightning. The Vegas Golden Knights, Winnipeg Jets in Winnipeg. Golden Knights were OT winners on Saturday, and they lead that series 2-1. And the Avalanche and the Kraken in Seattle. Colorado spoiling the first Stanley Cup playoff game in Seattle since 1919 with a 6-4 win on Saturday night. And the Avs, the defending Stanley Cup champions, lead that series 2-1.
Do you know what the name of the Seattle team was in 1919?
I believe they were the Seattle Metropolitans.
You are correct.
There's actually a banner. The Metropolitans won the 1912 Stanley Cup, and they put a banner up for that at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle. Because why not?
Yeah, for real.
Like, there was probably no reason to hang one before. Professional hockey or NHL hockey left shortly after the 1919 Stanley Cup Finals. Was that the finals that got wiped out by the flu?
You are correct. I was just about to say that. I knew it was
historically significant.
They played 5 games. It was 2-2 with a tie, and then they canceled it. It was the only time in the history of the Stanley Cup it was not awarded due to a no decision after playoffs were held.
Yeah, there was a flu outbreak, and actually
Spanish flu.
Yeah, Spanish flu outbreak, and a player died. Like a prominent player, not on the Seattle team, but on the opposing team, actually died.
Joe Hall.
Yes.
I got the Wikipedia right in front of me.
Yeah. So
Hall of Famer.
So yeah, that's how long it's been. 2 pandemics ago.
Wow.
The last time Seattle had hosted a Stanley Cup playoff game. Before Saturday, and the Avalanche spoiled that party.
Wow, I kind of hate measuring time in pandemics. That's not fun.
You don't get a chance to do it that often.
No,
but yeah, that unit of measurement worked in this case.
Wow,
wild. Anyway, so that's your NHL update. In the NBA, we've got one series already in the books. The Philadelphia 76ers completed a sweep of the Brooklyn Nets, so the Sixers are moving on, although the health of star center Joel Embiid is in question. He did not play in game 4. And
is it in question, or was he load managing?
It's always in question. This is Joel DNP'd we're talking about here. It is frequently in question, his health.
Yeah.
He spent all of game 3 just throwing himself on the ground.
He was on the ground a lot in that game. I got to see that game. He was on the floor quite a bit. The Nets in this series, the Nets have a lot of pieces where I say, that's a nice player. Bridges is close to a star. I mean, he's really, really good. They got a lot of pieces where you're like, oh, yeah, he's a nice player. Like Nick Claxton is a fine center. Spencer Dinwiddie's a fine player.
Yeah, but they got a lot of fine.
Yeah, it turns out you can't win a title with 12 role players. It doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, they banked a lot of their wins when they had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, guys who rate like way better than fine. And they banked a lot of those wins, and they got in. They were probably the worst team in the playoffs. Certainly the worst team in the Eastern Conference, I think, in going into the playoffs. And they are going home early after they are swept by the Sixers. One series is even at 2 apiece. That's the Warriors and the Kings. Another thriller yesterday in that series. Warriors with a 1-point win in overtime at the Chase Center in Sacramento. So the Warriors and the Kings are even at 2. Kings star guard De'Aaron Fox broke a finger in that game and is doubtful for game 5 and moving forward. Broke the tip of one of his fingers.
Which hand is it on?
I don't remember.
Because if it's on his non-shooting hand, it's tough for a guy with handles like that, but it would be not quite as devastating.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say what it's going to be. I'm trying to pull up the story right now on ESPN.com. It's just a bummer. He is hopeful to play in game 5, but doubtful. It is the very tip of his left index finger.
Okay. That's bad. There's no getting around the fact that that's very bad. But maybe it's not quite as bad if it was his shooting hand. I don't know. Unless
Anyway,
he's a lefty, in which case, yeah, it's real bad.
That series is even at 2. There are 4 other series where there is a team out to a 3-1 lead. The Celtics, Knicks, Suns, and Nuggets all have 3-1 series leads. The Knicks were victorious yesterday, as were the Celtics. The Knicks beating the Cavs, take a 3-1 lead. The Celtics beating the Hawks, take a 3-1 lead. Suns beat the Clippers on Saturday night. They don't play again until Tuesday, but that was a Saturday night game. The Suns beating the Clippers. They have a 3-1 lead in that series. Denver had a look at the sweep last night, but lost in overtime to Minnesota. So that series will continue on. No slow-mo Kyle Anderson for Minnesota in Game 5. That's already been announced. He got poked in the eye and had to leave the game last night in the second half. Already announced he will not play in Game 5. That's a big role player for Minnesota, who's already missing 2 pretty important role players with season-ending injuries. 2 series still have Game 4 left to play, and they will both play tonight. The Bucks and the Heat. Miami took a 2-1 series lead on Saturday night, and tonight the Bucks will have their best player back. Giannis is going to play. Jimmy Butler bruised his buttocks on Saturday, took a hard fall, bruised a glute, but he and Bam Adebayo are good to go for Miami tonight. And there is Game 4 in the Grizzlies-Lakers series. Yeah, they bruised his glute.
Man, Butler looks off tonight. Why is that? Oh, bruised ass.
Yes. Bruise on my rump.
Rump. Great word.
It is. That's an underused synonym for the backside, I think.
Wow.
Also, Game 4 of the Grizzlies-Lakers series. Lakers won Game 3 significantly. In bad news for the Grizzlies, Dylan Brooks will play tonight.
He stinks.
He was not suspended for hitting LeBron James in the gonads early in the second half of Game 3. Boy, you talk about all-time backfires. It was my ugly for the weekend in the 3 o'clock hour. He does all that talking after Game 3 about I poke bears and LeBron's old. I wish I'd have gotten to play against him when he was with the Heat. He's old now. I don't respect anybody unless they drop 40 on me. All that talk. And LeBron was like, all right, well, we'll see. And LeBron had 25, and Dylan Brooks was 3 for 13 from the field and got ejected.
I saw a post today on Reddit, of all places, about how certain metrics indicate that Dylan Brooks might be one of the worst performers in the entire NBA. Like, genuinely the worst player in the league. We're talking like Alcides Escobar's WRC plus in his final year with the Royals bad. And that's really bad. Let's stick with the NBA, by the way, for our next headline on our 5 Sports Talk headlines. Just a small one here. But the newest head coach of the Houston Rockets has been reported. It's Ime Udoka. Now, the Rockets have been pretty irrelevant since they dumped James Harden a couple years ago because they decided they would just rather tank and stink. And this year they're trying to get Victor Wembanyama, the unbelievable 7-foot beast of a prospect from France. They've hired Ime Udoka, who you may remember coached in the NBA Finals last year. He was the coach of the runner-up Boston Celtics in his first year with the program after Brad Stevens moved to the front office. Ime Udoka then got suspended for some sort of misconduct. It was never fully determined or at least reported what that misconduct was, but allegedly he cheated on his long-term partner / fiance with someone who worked for the Boston Celtics. So many things wrong there. You can't really be suspended just for cheating. I mean, makes you a dirtbag, but you can't be suspended for that.
Yes, if you had to suspend NBA personnel for running around on their wives, you wouldn't have enough guys to play the game.
No. According to D'Angelo Russell's Snapchat videos, the entire 2014 Lakers would have been out of the NBA. Was it 2014 when that happened? It was a long time ago now.
When Nick Young snitched on him?
Yeah. Long time ago. But yeah, that's unfortunately very common in the NBA. But what you can't do is sleep with someone who works for the team. There are a whole lot of workplace problems with that. And you cannot cheat on your significant other with someone who works for the team. That's just another layer to it. So the Celtics suspended him and then eventually just canned him and hired Joe Mazzulla, his assistant. And now Udoka is going to Houston, which, by the way, has the 3rd highest rate of infidelity of any major city in the country.
Weird stat. Who keeps those stats?
The Houston Chronicle, I believe. I guess. I mean, good basketball coach. Houston doesn't have many good players, but we'll see.
And they're very young and very impressionable young team. A lot of guys who are rookies, second-year guys, teenagers, early 20s. Give them a good example to learn from. A guy who got fired from his last job because he couldn't keep it in his pants. That's really good. That's great culture the Rockets have going there.
Yeah, real good. As our pal Jordan Foote covers the Chiefs for Airhead Report, huge NBA guy, put on Twitter, that'll fix the culture. I have a feeling that might have been a little sarcastic. Next headline for you.
Next headline for me, it was not a great weekend in the basketball transfer portal for Kansas and Kansas State. Couple of high-value targets for both schools decided to go elsewhere. First, it was Harrison Ingram, the former Stanford Cardinal wing, deciding to go to North Carolina, spurning Kansas's advances to the point where he ended up not even taking his visit to Lawrence. He has decided to go play for Hubert Davis at North Carolina. Then it was former Hofstra guard Aaron Estrada, who a lot of people thought might be headed for Manhattan, decided instead to go to Tuscaloosa. He will play at Alabama, the two-time Colonial Athletic Association Player of the Year, heading to Alabama instead. I have my guesses about how that one went down, and it rhymes with Aaron Estrada got a giant NIL bag from Alabama.
Yes, that sounds like it is correct. You know, you mentioned it toward the end of the college basketball season, I believe the regular season. We were talking about how the SEC has in a lot of ways caught up in being a very respectable, probably third best basketball conference in America right now behind the Big 12 and the Big East.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, well, they made all this football money and they said, well, what if we spend it on other things too?
Yeah.
And that includes massive NIL collectives that you can now use to get these players. We're going to talk about Alabama in a second here, by the way. That's tough for K-State. I will tell you, and I don't want to give away paywall reporting for free, but the Go Power Cat crew reported today that one of the other mid-major transfers K-State is looking for, not Max Asmus, Tyler Perry from North Texas, very much trending toward K-State. And that if there's one guy you can feel confident about right now, it should probably be Tyler Perry, who, by the way, was the Conference USA Player of the Year.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good get.
Yeah, nice consolation prize.
Yeah.
One of the best mid-major players in America.
Yeah. And a lot of Twitter rumor mongering in that regard to Tyler Perry as well. So, but I know that they really felt good about their position on Estrada, and then all of a sudden he's going to Alabama, and that's the kind of thing that NIL usually explains. And hey, at least it's all above board now. Like, we don't have to say Alabama cheated. No, Alabama just had deeper pockets.
They dropped a bag. Well, yeah, but I mean, it was someone who works for the T-Town Collective signing a contract, and not Billy Joe Dirtbag in a McDonald's on the outskirts of Tuscaloosa handing over literally a bag. So no, this is good. There's no problem with that. The Harrison Ingram point. There was some talk about whether or not he was a good fit for KU athletically. Is he a 3? Is he a 4? What's the fit? KU would have taken him, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But the way that this sort of trended, based on Michael Swain's reporting, among other places, and also some fairly telling quotes after his commitment from Harrison Ingram, he wanted to go to KU. He really wanted KU and would have committed probably on the spot on his visit. KU was kind of slow to get involved, then said, okay, no, we'll bring you in for a visit. We're interested. And then went back to kind of slow playing it a little bit. And Ingram said, okay, you know what? North Carolina prioritized me. I'm going to go where I feel like a priority, which is fine. I mean, KU didn't make you a priority. Well, don't go there. Don't feel like second fiddle. That, that's the right thing to do. And North Carolina ends up getting a pretty good player. So no misconceptions about how that one unfolded there.
Another K-State basketball note, Keontae Johnson, as expected, declared for the NBA draft over the weekend. Almost said NFL draft. And that's going on this week, kind of occupying a large part of all of our brains. Right. But yes, Keontae Johnson, no surprise, declared for the NBA draft. Did note in his announcement, his how the announcements go anymore on social media, did note in his announcement graphic that he is maintaining his college eligibility. I have a hard time seeing Keontae Johnson back on a college campus next year, but they did toss that out there, I think, with a purpose. So we'll see.
That's interesting to me. It is. I don't see him coming back, but if he does, hey, K-State's in a great spot going into next year. Last headline for me, I wanted to get to you real quick. I mentioned Alabama basketball. Does the name Jaquan Walton mean anything to you?
Yeah, he was one of Wichita State's best players, walk-on to Wichita State, and jumped in the portal and headed to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, averaged nearly 14 points a game last season, started 27 of 28 games he played in. Good player. Today in Tuscaloosa, he was arrested with 2 other men because in their car they had weed and guns. I don't know if you know this, and if you have never heard what is wrong with you, maybe you don't. You can't have drugs and guns at the same time. Not good. Even in states where it's legal, I'm pretty sure they don't want you having guns with your weed.
Yeah, that's not no, bad decision making. Also, not great to be an Alabama basketball player running around with guns right now.
Yeah, that's really the bigger point here. What are you doing, Nate Oates in Alabama? Like, shouldn't you be
What kind of program are you running over there?
Shouldn't you be extra strict about don't do dumb stuff while this other stuff's going on? That feels like it should be pretty obvious, but I don't run a major college basketball program. Any other headlines for you?
No, that will do it.
Then let's send it to a quick commercial break. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up after this on 580 WIBW. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon. Thanks so much for stopping by and being a part of the show. By the way, since we've talked a bunch about the Chiefs, obviously, and my team today, how are you feeling about your team going into Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
I am fascinated to see what they do, honestly. The Seahawks have pick number 5 and pick number 20, and I think they have a unique opportunity to maybe go get a quarterback of the future. And I would love it if they decided that guy was Anthony Richardson. I think he's smart enough and athletic enough that if he got a redshirt year in the pros to learn behind a guy like Geno Smith, who can provide a lot of wisdom and valuable experience, that there might be a great quarterback lurking under there. And if the Seahawks go that direction at 5, or hell, they might even be able to go that direction at 20, I think I would be delighted. If they end up with Jalen Carter or Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, that would be great. They need pass rushing talent. But they're in good shape. They're a playoff team with 2 top 20 picks. That's a pretty good place to be.
What are the odds they move back with one of them? I think fairly high just because John Schneider loves picks.
Yes, he does. He loves picks. He loves to trade back. More likely they trade back out of 20 then out of 5.
I would agree with that.
Unless something funky happens at the top of the draft and there's a team that really wants like CJ Stroud and he's still there at 5, and maybe a team jumps up with Seattle to get Stroud, or
Tennessee.
Somebody
maybe.
really wants Richardson at 5.
Yeah.
I could see that if the quarterbacks get a little wonky there at the top of the draft, but no, I think they're going to hold steady, I think, at 5, and they're going to get somebody who's going to help their defensive line a lot, because they were stinky on the D-line last year, and they need some dudes.
You don't get many top 5 picks as a ready-made playoff team. That doesn't happen all that often.
No, it sure doesn't.
No, pretty nice spot to be in if you're Seattle. I wanted to get to this from Major League Baseball. It's sort of a continuation of a segment we did last week where I got mad about Rob Manfred.
Mm-hmm.
And this is more just, I'm mad he said it, but this is more of just a continuation of why baseball is in a bad spot right now. And even though the game itself on the field has been very entertaining so far this year, very entertaining. I feel like home run numbers might be down. I don't have evidence to back that up. It's just kind of a hunch. Or maybe I've just watched too much of the Royals. But I feel like the product has been good, but baseball's overall health maybe not in a great spot. Rob Manfred said this on Monday. He was speaking to the Associated Press sports editors, the APSE, and said that he feels sorry for the fans in Oakland when it comes to the A's moving. We talked about that on Friday. A's are moving to Vegas. But he said, or he claimed, or denied claims, by Oakland's mayor that the franchise used the negotiations with the city of Oakland as leverage for this new park in Las Vegas. He also said he believes the last place A's can field a more competitive team while playing in Nevada. Dan, is it going to be the same ownership group in Oakland as it is in Nevada? At least off the rip.
Yeah, at first.
And they're going to be in the same division, right? The AL West?
Presumably.
And they're going to have the same pretty much everything else, except for it'll be a nice new stadium, which the ownership could have already built in Oakland, right?
Right.
That seems like a problem that the commissioner of the league already knows, oh, no, they'll be more competitive in this new place, when the ownership could have fixed their situation in their current spot on his own any time in the last 10 years?
Yeah, because it's got nothing to do with market size. Like, it comes to market size, Oakland, part of the Bay Area, I know they got to share the space with the Giants, but that is a huge market. There are a lot of people that live out there. Property values are very high. Oakland is being gentrified. Like, Oakland is a massive, massive market where lots of people live. Las Vegas, comparatively, and I can't take credit for this. This is Joe Sheehan's line, baseball writer Joe Sheehan. His work has appeared Sports Illustrated, Baseball Prospectus, other places. He says, market-wise, Las Vegas is hot Milwaukee.
I like Milwaukee. Milwaukee nice town.
It's not a knock on Milwaukee. It's just like that's the size of the market you're dealing with. There's not the Las Vegas metropolitan area is not like exploding. There's money in Las Vegas, yes, but there's not like people. There's not like interest. There's not this massive base of people that you can, get season tickets from or TV revenue out of. Like,
and again, how interested are people going to be in seeing a team that just doesn't try to compete? Like if you brought a team to, I'm trying to think of an example. Who is a big, okay, the Coyotes.
Phoenix Coyotes.
Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah, Arizona Coyotes, yeah.
You tell us that, hey, Kansas City, you're getting your NHL team, and you're going to get the Coyotes, a team that, by the way, doesn't really want to pay its fair share of the rent for your stadium. Also has really bad management and is also not coached well and also doesn't have any players you want to see.
There's a novelty effect, but that novelty wears off real quick if it's not winning. Like, the thing about Vegas is it's an entertainment town. Like,
in a transient city.
Yes. And it's people go to see things that entertain them. And when things entertain you for a long period of time, then you get, the residencies. You're Siegfried and Roy, or you're Danny Gans, or you're David Copperfield, or whoever. But if you're not that, then you're not working the strip. Like, you're doing open mic nights at Arizona Charlie's.
Yeah.
A real casino that I've stayed at, by the way.
Like, if I'm going to Vegas tomorrow to see something, it's like, hey, you got one night in Vegas. What are you going to do? You're going to go to an A's game or you can go to the new wave of shows at the Carrie Underwood residency. Well, guess where I'm going? I'm not going to see the A's. I'm not going to go watch this team. No, absolutely not. Traded all their players? Management sucks? No, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go see Carrie Underwood perform her Reflections tour.
Eventually, they've got to be worth the investment, the entertainment dollar investment on their own merits. And if they're not, then what happens to them will be what happened to them in Kansas City or what happened to them in Oakland. And the owner will get bored and look elsewhere.
It just sucks to have so many teams that just don't care. I was on Twitter yesterday. It must have been last night. And I saw a tweet from Kirk Herbstreit. Herbie is a huge baseball fan. In fact, in his book, good read, by the way, he even said, there's an alternate universe where I chose baseball instead of football. Like, I loved baseball.
Big Reds fan, right?
Huge Reds fan. And he tweeted somebody to the fact, I'm going to pull up the actual tweet because I felt bad for the man. I like Kirk Herbstreit. Like him a lot. He tweeted yesterday in regard to the Cincinnati Reds, quote, "Just out of curiosity, could MLB or somebody who just wants to statistically make my agony as a Reds fan more of a reality look up the Reds' April record since 2014? The last decade has been a debacle, and it's over fast. By May 1st, used to be a crown jewel baseball city. Not anymore." And then someone said, "Wouldn't it be nice to see meaningful baseball in September?" And he said, "What about we just start with May? September, just being realistic, just a couple months at this point." They DFA'd their home runs leader today.
What?
Jason Vosler was leading their team in home runs. He was also hitting 161 and already had 25 strikeouts, but he did lead the team in home runs. They DFA'd him.
He was too good. He was embarrassing people with all his strong home run power.
No. We can't be having this. We must DFA him. Like, that's bad, man. It shouldn't be this way. And the Cubs were in this situation last year. Like, I'm enjoying the fact that they're not embarrassing now. They gave way too many at-bats to Frank Schwindel last year. Like, too many teams. Your team has been
The
varying
Colorado
levels
Rockies
of competent in their history.
The Rockies are 6-17, man.
It's not good.
It's not what you want.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, like one of those teams that we would have said is completely unserious going into this year, the Pittsburgh Pirates lead the National League Central. They look young and kind of frisky. They're 16-7.
And they actually have real good players. Like, Brian Hayes is good.
Brian Hayes can't hit.
No.
Good defensive player, but he can't hit. Like, Brian Reynolds can really hit.
Hurt, though.
Yeah. Andrew McCutcheon's found the fountain of youth. Like, somebody named Jason DeLay has an 854 OPS. So we'll see how real this is.
I'd rather have that than be 5-15.
Yes.
5-17.
Yeah, 5-17.
I'd rather have 7 straight wins. Pirates have won more in their last 7 games than the Royals have all year.
Yeah.
So,
but in fairness, they got to play the Rockies. Royals haven't gotten to do that yet.
Not yet. Oh my gosh, the self-deprecation off the charts. We've got to get to a break. We'll talk some more baseball, Royals baseball in particular, next on 580 Sports Talk. If you are a normal average person and you're told we're going to go spend some time in Omaha, you might think, oh, cool. I'm going to go catch a baseball game. I'll see some Creighton basketball.
Gonna go to the zoo, Henry Dorley Zoo.
Have to go to the zoo. Might go to the zoo a couple of times. I'm going to go to the parking lot at the zoo and see where the old Rosenblatt Stadium was once upon a time.
Gonna go get the sweet potatoes at Big Mama's Kitchen.
Ooh, country fried steak at Big Mama's Kitchen. Oh, buddy. I'm going to go to the Coneflower Creamery, which is delightful. Go hang out in the old market. That's what some time in Omaha means for you and I. If you are a Kansas City Royal and you are told, yeah, you got to go spend some time in Omaha, that means you are, for at least the time being, losing your job. Not great. That's what's happening to Nate Eaton, who has appeared in 12 games this year for the Royals and has had 25 plate appearances. He has also had 25 at-bats. He has scored 1 run and has 1 hit. He has stolen 2 bases. He has not walked even 1 time and has struck out 13 times. His batting average, his on-base percentage, and his slugging percentage are all the same number. They are .040. He has been demoted to Omaha.
The question when you go through those numbers is, what the hell took so long?
His OPS plus is -77, which, if my math is correct, means he is 177% worse than the average major league player. I'm not really sure how that calculation works.
So when Franmil Reyes went on the paternity list the other day.
Franmil.
Yeah, little baby Franmil was born. It looked like everybody was very happy.
That makes him Fran Snack.
Fran Snack.
Franmil.
The baby
Fran Snack.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's not very good.
Yeah, you should have workshopped that one before you brought it to the program. I'm just being honest. You've done better.
No, that's fair.
But I'm
totally
saying.
fair.
Anyway, so Franmil Reyes goes on the paternity list. They bring up Freddie Fermin just to have around for a couple days because he's on the 40-man and they can do it. And Fermin's a catcher. And so there's obviously not a route to playing time for a catcher because you've got MJ Melendez as the backup to Salvador Perez. Well, MJ tweaks his back last night, and he's not in the lineup tonight. They haven't put him on the injured list yet, but now all of a sudden there is a need for an extra catcher. So it probably would have been a pretty straightforward swap. Like, hey, Freddie Fermin, thank you for your service. Got his first big league hit yesterday. Congratulations, Freddie.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Thanks for hanging around, being an emergency catcher. Gave us a chance to play Melendez and Perez and not have to worry about anything there for a couple of days. Enjoy your trip back to AAA. But no, they needed that extra catcher now. So then they looked around and said, gosh, we got to send somebody else down. This wasn't part of the plan. Who do we send down? How about the guy hitting 040? Maybe him.
How do you hit 040? You don't just run into one.
Unfortunately, in the process, the Royals also sent down one of their best bullpen arms.
Yeah, isn't that cruel? Royals Diamondbacks tonight. First game of the series. Brad Keller goes tonight, hoping for a bounce-back game. A little revenge game for Brad Keller. He's taking on the team that left him unprotected for the Rule 5 draft back in 2017.
Believe that's correct.
And he's been a Royal ever since. And he's taking on Tommy Henry. Until today, I had never heard of Tommy Henry.
Yeah,
I know who he was.
I don't have a lot on Tommy Henry for you, and I follow that division pretty closely, as you might understand. 9 pretty undistinguished starts last year for Tommy Henry. Appears to just be a guy, a left-handed guy, but a guy.
He is making a season debut today, I believe.
Yes.
Made his major league debut last September. Rest of the series, the Royals are sending Singer to the Hill tomorrow night.
Speaking of guys who need a bounce back.
Yeah, no kidding. Ryan Nelson. Ryan like Sandberg. Nelson.
It's not Ryan, it's Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan. Like Ryan Sandberg.
It's an old Jim Rome show drop.
Oh, is it really?
It's not Ryan, it's Ryan. I think about that every time.
You don't see many Ryans.
No. Not a lot
other than Sandberg, really. I don't know any others. Royals have not announced their starter for Wednesday yet. Zach Gallen will go for the D-backs.
He's good.
He's very good.
He's really good.
Although, if you remember, when they played last year, we said, oh, God, the Royals are going to get smoked.
Yeah, I remember
Zach Gallen going to put them in a body bag, and they beat him.
Yeah, they sure did.
Sounds like it'll probably be is that going to be the bullpen day in the rotation?
That would seem to fit.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Bullpen
because
day?
if that's how that's how they open the last series, so that's
right.
how they'll conclude the series after. Yeah, that would be your opener day, or maybe they just start Yarbrough, or maybe they call somebody up. Little Palace intrigue.
Yeah. Well, that'll be your Royals lineup, your rotation for the next few days. Do they get the win tonight? Keller 2-2, 3 flat ERA tonight against a guy who's never played this year, at least at the major league level.
This should be a matchup that the Royals can win if Keller gives him some length and some strikes, which he, again, looking for a bounce back. He'd thrown really well before his last outing. I'll say Keller bounces back. I'll say they get in the win column today.
The Royals, if you wanted to put some significant interest on this game, they are understandably going to be underdogs. I got to pull up the line here. They are only plus 126. That's not too bad. That implies that they're somewhere in the 35-ish% chance to win this game. That's not too bad. We've got to get to one final timeout. We'll come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk after this with the final word. Time to wrap up 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon with the final word. Dan, you're up first.
Whoever you are, wherever you may be, you did not have a worse weekend, and you can thank your lucky stars for that, than Dean Chavez of Ontario, California, who was trying to qualify for the Southern California Golf Association's Mid-Amateur Championship on the weekend. And all he had to do was play 7 over on the final 3 holes of golf. He made a 12 on the par 4 18th.
That's 8 over, unfortunately.
Yeah, which, hey, if he played the previous holes in 200, no, he came in bogey, double bogey, octuple bogey to miss qualifying.
He could play +7 and played +11. That's almost impressive. Like, that's almost trying to fail.
Yeah, he hole 18's got some water off the right. I think I probably would have found it myself.
Final word for me is a pretty simple one. When it comes to the NFL draft, it's one of those never say never kind of events because there are surprises and quirks and teams' boards are different than you expect every single year. But I will give you this. This is my guarantee for the NFL draft coming up starting on Thursday. The Kansas City Chiefs are not going to spend their first overall pick on the second best offensive guard in the draft. That is my promise to you, Peter King. That does it for 580 Sports Talk today. We will be back tomorrow from 3 until 6. Full show coming your way. We'll, of course, get to more on the NFL draft. We'll talk plenty of KU as well as Michael Swain joins us from fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll get to your texts and your comments on YouTube as well. Don't forget to head to our website, 580wibw.com, to check out the podcast version of the show. But until tomorrow, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Royals are on later tonight here on 580 WIBW.